hosting the candidate forum here at this location. It will be for the candidates of the Assembly District for the 51st District. Their elections is coming up October the 3rd, and we'll have an opportunity for the candidates here. I believe there's 9 of them, 9? 12. I guess there's more running. So they'll be here to be able to answer your questions coming up next week, Thursday. So I want to say thank you. Oh, that's correct. I want to say thank you to Jackie because she's organizing this. She's leading that. And it's exactly not going to be here. It's going to be across the street at the Presbyterian Church. Some people refer to it as the Korean Church. It's right on Eastern Avenue. So it'll be next week, Thursday, beginning at 7 p.m., correct? 6.
5:30, pre-registration.
Correct? 5:30? 5:30 for those stakeholders who wish to attend. Once again, it's going to be across the street, the Assembly District Candidate Forum, District 51. So I also want to mention that I have this opportunity before we actually start our meeting, that I served 2 days this past weekend while a lot of people on holiday for the La Tuna fire. As a CERT member, level 2 for the fire department, I volunteered Saturday and Sunday to assist with logistics there. It was pretty intense activity. So I want to encourage you guys to all participate on CERT training. That is coming up tomorrow at Our Lady of Guadalupe Church beginning at 7 p.m. All level 1 CERT training will be conducted tomorrow. I would encourage the board members to attend and the stakeholders. And that's just another way of me giving back to the community. So it was 2 days of intense activities out there. So item number 1 is closed, and we'd like to continue with the agenda. For those of you who don't have agenda, they should be on the back table. Item number 2 is our Pledge of Allegiance. So at this time, please stand. Go ahead, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now go to item number 3, which will be our roll.
Here.
Anthony Manzano,
I'm here.
Jackie Carrion,
Present.
Kathy Leal, Perla Flores,
Here.
Anita M. Becerra,
She said that she will not be attending today.
okay, Michelle Santos, not here, Karina Cruz, Jose Luna, Ethan Sani, no, Cynthia Sandoval here, Hugo Pacheco, here's Stephanie Escobar here.
That gives us the 5 members at this time. We do not have quorum to conduct business, but we are able to take public comment until further board members arrive, meaning we will not be taking any actions. Public comment is an opportunity for the stakeholders to address the board on non-agenda items. You'll see it on the agenda, item number 4. I just have 2 public comment cards here before me. One of them is for item 19, and the other one does not designate, and it says Victor Payares. Sir, is this one for public comment now or an agenda item? Victor?
Let me check out the agenda.
Okay. If there's any other stakeholders that wish to speak at this moment, you can fill out your public comment cards and submit it, or I'll just take a show of hands. We'll offer 3 minutes. Sir, public comment? This will be for non-agenda items. And
Hi. On the website, on the website, for the Committee for Beautification and Environment and Green, does it say what times they use during the month on the website? Does it say that on the website? For the committees, for the Beautification Committee and the Environment and Green Committee,
Does it say on the web?
What we'll do is we give you your full 3 minutes to speak, and then we'll answer the questions if applicable after.
Because it doesn't seem to say, also, there aren't any minutes as to what's been taking place at those committees. So it's hard to follow to see what's been happening through those committees. So I'm just curious because, that's it.
Thank you for that, and we'll see if Cindy could provide that information for the website.
Okay, I can provide that information. I am the chair of the Environmental Green Committee, and as of yet, we have not met at all at all. I just became the chair, I believe it was a month ago. So to answer your question, we don't have a set meeting, we don't have anything for minutes as well. So as soon as I do set up an appointment meeting, I'm going to speak with Jackie that's on my committee and also Mr. Aaron Armstrong, and we'll set up a date and we will try to calendar one that is not being used by other committees as well. So we gotta have to do a little bit of homework, but since we haven't met, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Do we have any other stakeholders wishing to address the board at this time for non-agenda items? That will close item number 4, which is our public comment period. We now move to President's Report, item number 5. This time I just want to indicate that we do have several committees that are still outstanding. I have my list here. Beautification Committee has 3 people, and it indicates Sonny, which is not here. Okay. Next is Arts and Culture Committee. We have 2 people on that committee, Karina Cruz and Jackie Carrillo. And Anita? One moment. So that committee is completed. Ad hoc Board Engagement Committee, do you need any additional committee members? Ad hoc Board Engagement Committee, the event's next week Thursday. Not? Yes. Okay. The following committee is land use committee. We did have a resignation from Tom Williams, so land use only has Jorge Garcia, David. Correct. You're here, correct, David? Yes. Those are the land use committee, and we have 1 vacancy per chair. Now, since we can't ratify the chair at this time, I'm going to hold that item over, which is land use. And membership and outreach. Let me see that one. Membership and outreach. It has 3, Hugo Pacheco, Cynthia Sandoval, and Yoli Garcia. Okay, so that one's okay. Right, so I'm not going to close item 5, I'm going to leave it open, which is President's Report, but now we'll have an opportunity to move to board members, committee, and announcements. Do we have any board members here that have announcements for this upcoming month, or any comments? Board member comments? Am I right? Mr. Moore, any board member comments on that?
General comment?
Right. Anything you'd like to mention?
Hello? Hi, good evening. Basically, I attended the at City Hall of Los Angeles, the homeless meeting regarding the issue of homelessness. And Tom Song was there. And they also had the individuals who are the developers for Rosa Castillo and other places that they're proposing. And one of the things that did come up was if we can have them come to our board meeting and talk about the planning, how they're going to execute the development, and what services are going to be provided. So that's something that we want to bring here, so people here will know about the plans on the development and other places too, and what services are going to be provided. So that's part of the issue. I know a lot of folks have talked about, right here, for example, on Huntington Drive and Stillwell, and other places where there's encampments. And what I'd like to do is try to bring those here so folks can ask questions to those people directly. So it was an informative meeting. I have some PowerPoint slides on it, but I'll probably present it next week, since the meeting was just a couple of days ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Luna. To my right, Perla. Jackie, any announcements or comments?
Just that Sports and Recs we have the two events this month, Ascot Hills, Becky on the 23rd, and we also have movie night on the 30th.
Can you give the time for the movie night and location, please?
Movie night is here in El Sereno Park, and we're going to be seeing Pets Life, and it will start at 7:30 p.m. Saturday, September 30th. And then Ascot Hills will be up there on the 23rd with Aslan Athletics. And we're going to start setting up at 7. I believe the run starts at 8 o'clock. Fresh and early in the morning, so you don't get all sunburned.
Thank you. It sounds like we have a couple of great events coming up, one for the kids and one for the runners up there. Stephanie, do you have any announcements?
No.
No? And Jackie, I didn't really put you up. Is that it for you?
Yeah.
And then, any announcements here, Cynthia? Aaron, any announcements? We'll indicate at this time the arrival of Mr. Pacheco, 617. At this time, we do have a total of 8 board members present before us, and which gives us an opportunity to conduct business. We did take board members' comments and announcements for item number 6. I have not closed item 5 yet, which will now give me an opportunity to make committee appointments. So the only one that I have circled on here, which was the one that would be meeting, would be the Land Use Committee. Do we have any directors here present at this time wishing to nominate for the Land Use Committee?
would like
On
to-
Land Use at this moment is Jorge Garcia and David. And I don't have your last name, Mr. David?
Oh, Chacon, C-H-A-C.
Chacon. Okay. But the bylaws indicate that a board member has to chair these committees. So although we do have 2 stakeholders, the third member must be one of us that are here at this time, if you wish to nominate. So I'll wait for nominations.
I would like to nominate Stephanie.
Okay. Stephanie, do you accept that nomination? Yes. She says yes. So let me see, Land Use Committee. The bylaws indicate that the president is allowed to appoint directors or appoint committee members, which this would be, but the bylaws also indicate that it has to be ratified by the board. So the board has to approve the appointment. So seeing that there was a nomination to nominate Stephanie Escobar here as the president, I will be appointing her to the Land Use Committee, and I'll now ask for a show of hands from the board to ratify this appointment. All in favor of ratifying Stephanie Escobar to be the chair of the Land Use Committee, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You want to vote for yourself, please? 7. Okay, yeah, you're allowed to vote for yourself. 7. Those wishing to oppose, raise your hand. And those abstaining, raise your hand. That'll be ratified with 7-0-1. Stephanie, I'm going to indicate here that you're now the chair of the Land Use Committee. Stephanie Escobar, I need to find your name on here. Please. So I just wanted, I see the 2 stakeholders here, David and Jorge, just so you guys recognize, be in contact with Stephanie here. She'll be reaching out to you for your next Land Use Committee meeting. Just make sure you guys exchange information. So that will close item 5, which is the President's report, and we'll now move to 6B on the agenda. We've heard 6, which is our board members' comments and announcements. Mr. Pacheco, you just showed up. Do you have any board members' comments or announcements before we move on? Just comments or announcements? Give it to our meeting, if you'd like to, or anything.
Yeah, oh, that's pretty good. And one of the things that came up, as you know, I'm the chair of the public safety, which I think I asked to see if we can't have Jose Luna take that over. I don't know if you put that on the agenda or not.
It was not.
No? Okay, because that's one of the things I'd like to have. I would not quit the committee, but I'd like to have Jose possibly be the chair. And that's because I've taken over the membership and outreach committee. And one of the things that came up during the committee meeting is the fact of what are we really supposed to be doing in that particular committee? Because most of the things that we do here is already outreach. And so the main issue is how do we increase the membership? The bylaws call for our committee to find ways to get more members, more stakeholders involved, and also to find leadership and try to get them recruited. So the idea is have the activities of prior years been effective in bringing in new leadership and bringing in people that want to get involved. And to that idea is also the idea of maybe creating a handbook that would explain, number one, what our roles are, and then also to the stakeholders why we're stuck with a lot of bureaucracy. And it has to do with laws, from the city. It has to do with statutes from the state. It has to do with the fact that we run by parliamentary procedure. And so there was a lot of good ideas in terms of what we can address so that the stakeholders aren't kind of like complaining to us of, oh, you guys rattle on and you fight with each other and you argue this and you do that, and before you know it, people go home. And then they leave and say, what was that all about? Well, if you had a handbook and kind of maybe explained it to you, maybe you would understand that there's things that we have to, by laws and regulations, do. And that way, people would say, oh, now I understand what they're going through, all of that stuff. And so that's kind of an idea of what we did in the committee, and then obviously what our primary role is. Our role as the Outreach and Membership Committee is not to fund activities in the community. That is, and yet that has been what's been going on out there. So that's my report on the committee itself. For public safety, I'm sorry we didn't get to meet.
Thank you, Hugo, and hopefully that handout or literature will be useful for the stakeholders. Thank you. Any final closing comments for board members? Sam, you just right through on item 6. Board members' comments and announcements. There's no action taken at this time, just anything in general. If you wish to give a community report, just comments and announcements at this time. But if no action.
Got it.
Okay.
So, beautification committee met finally, and we had two new stakeholders who wanted to join the committee, and they joined. And we also agreed on a plan to join forces with Councilman Nazar's office for community cleanup. So they have community cleanups planned at least once a quarter, I believe, and we're going to try to do at least once a month. Sorry? Yeah, so we're going to try to do once a month. So that's approved, and it's on the agenda, I believe. That's all. Thank you.
Item number 6A is an opportunity to give department reports. Do we have anyone from the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment this evening? Tom, you wish to speak to us? This is Tom Soon. Department of Neighborhood Empowerment is the department that oversees the neighborhood council throughout the city, and this is our representative from Dunn.
How are you guys doing?
Good evening, good evening.
Alright, so a couple of quick announcements for you that's going to really affect the board. It could be good news or bad news. Okay? Which one do you want to hear? Well, both of them, it depends how you take it. It's good news or bad news, okay? The health, and I sent this out in the monthly profile, but in the Health, Educations, and Neighborhoods Committee, the committee decided to, let me back up. Remember last year during elections, this is regarding your elections, not the city, not the nation election, but your neighborhood council elections. Last year, the neighborhood councils had an opportunity to do online voting. And last year was the first time that it was an opportunity to do it. I don't know if LA32, you guys opted in for online? You guys did, right? Okay. So then I think we learned a lot through the process, but to kind of to enhance it, to make it better, it was decided that we needed a little extra time, not too much rush to do it. So the committee, the Business Council Member Use Committee, decided to pass the motion, which most likely will be approved by City Council in order to do a really effective online voting campaign to extend the terms of the board until 2019, all right? So that means that instead of going for, because next year will be a year that you'll have your 2 years elections, because you guys were elected in 2016. So going forward, it's an opportunity for the board to so two options. One is that the board decide, okay, we want to go forward and have just, extend the term for 1 more year. That's why I say good news, bad news, because some board members are like, no, I want to get off. Not this board, but some other boards, okay? The other option is that the board feels like, no, we want to be fair and we want to, not so much fair, but it's a long time. 1 more year is a long time. 3 years is a long time. We want to have the option of having what's called a selection in 2018. Then by November the 1st, which means by your October board meeting, then you would need to decide as a board that we want to have a selection in 2018. And then you fill out a stipulation worksheet, and the next year we'll help you do what's called a selection, in which the stakeholders will have an opportunity to come vote for your, whoever runs for the board. But the difference between selection and election is that it's not going to be a secret ballot. So we will know exactly, kind of like when you guys do your elections, when you vote for we know exactly how Jackie's going to vote, who they're going to vote for, how Hugo's going to vote, how Sonny's going to vote. So that's an option too, okay? So keep that in mind that if you do want to have a selection in 2018, then we would need a stipulation worksheet by November the 1st of this year. Now that's going to kind of affect, I think your election of your officers is every year, right? Every 2 years. So that's something that we have to figure out. Does that mean that the extension, the officers, does that get extended for a year or two? That's something we have to figure out too, okay? But currently that's in play right now. So that's why I say it's to be good news if you want to stay on, if you bad news, you don't. So, any questions about that? That's an option there, okay? Now to answer, I'll give you 2 more minutes. Another thing is that if you look at the monthly profiles, I think everyone's pretty much up to date with their training, so kudos to you. We have to get you updated, okay? But I think everyone's pretty much updated. Regarding the outreach thing, look at that monthly profile. If you go, maybe I'll send it to your committee directly, but there's an opportunity in which you would use a city system called ZMUS, and you could use ZMUS and kind of map out your area and all the addresses and create like a mailing list, for them too. If you want to, do outreach. I know, Simon, you mentioned that, you guys want to do your businesses. You know how you reach the businesses. That system you could use to you could categorize the businesses in your geographic area to reach the businesses too. So, ZMUS. I'll send you the links on there's a whole worksheet on how to do it. It's really effective. Lastly, I'll let you guys know is that, two more things, is that this Saturday is a Congress of Neighborhoods, September the 9th. So I think a couple of board members are attending already, but it's an opportunity for you to meet with the city departments, get a whole day of training, free food down at City Hall. So I'll send you, look at my email again, the links are good, register. There's like 4 workshops you can attend each session, so do that and try. And lastly is that we're trying to do a demographic survey for all the neighborhoods. We don't have that information because the board turned over so much. And I have on my template here, my little pad here, that it's a quick 4-question survey about your gender, ethnicity, your age, so you could and then what's the other one? I forget. But then so that helps us kind of gather who's on the board for the demographics, and we'll share that with the board. And the information that you share, I know what you do is open to Public Records Act, but this is confidential. If someone requests this, they're not going to be able to get this information, so FYI, okay? So I might just pass the tablet around as after the meeting, okay?
You want us to do that now during the meeting? We can do that.
If we do that, that'd be great. Okay, so I'll pass it around. But those are some of the updates, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
Thank you. We also have department reports. We have Juan Guzman. Juan, this is Department of Recreation and Parks. No, stop it.
Thank you, good evening. Couple things, we finished our summer season, very, very busy this summer at the rec center. We're looking forward to fall programming. We will begin our fall sports season October 7th. Okay, that's flag football, co-ed soccer, we'll call it flag football, co-ed soccer, and girls volleyball. In addition, we've been selected with a joint agreement with the RAM Corporation and our department, and we'll be offering free pickleball classes. Anyone ever heard of pickleball before? Okay, I didn't hear it either. I sent the email out today. If anyone would like me to forward the email we sent out, it's kind of a combination between tennis, badminton played with a wiffle ball style ball. There'll be free classes at the tennis courts every Saturday and Sunday from 8 to 12. All registration happens at the tennis courts with the staff that are conducting the classes, which are RAM Corporation instructors. And that will run from this Saturday. Last week was more outreach. It'll run from this Saturday through November. Okay?
The RAM Corporation, the big thing?
They are, yeah, they are. They're just kind of gauging to see the interest of new classes in the community and how many people will come out for free classes and free instruction. So hopefully we can get the word out and we can bring in the biggest numbers department-wide in this study. In addition, our upcoming activities in the fall, we have our Halloween event will be on the 31st, and the week before Thanksgiving, we'll be having a basketball turkey shoot. The council office usually helps us out, and they help us with turkeys, and we provide turkeys to a couple of families, but we go through some sporting activities and basketball, a shootout contest that provide that. So if anyone would like to be added to our email list, it's elsereno.recreationcenter@lacity.org. Okay, and my email is juan.l.guzman@lacity.org. Unless there's any questions, I think that's it. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guzman. And thank you for the update as we start entering the...
What's the question?
Okay.
Pickleball for adults, but I'm sure if you come by and you have teenagers, they won't turn you away, okay?
Thank you again, Mr. Guzman. And thanks for those updates as we start entering the next quarter, which will be the holiday season. So there's several events already coming up. Any other department reports? City departments? We now have our public safety reports, and I see the firefighters are here in the back. Captain, welcome.
Good evening. We are here in place of our chief officer, who's typically at your meetings, Chief Wazinski. Unfortunately, he is being pre-deployed to Texas. And from there, he'll probably go to Irma, which is in Florida. So we just came by and kind of introduced ourselves. My name is Vito Violante. I'm the captain today. We have Steve Welch, who's our medic. Rich Pacheco, our driver, pumps water, and our firefighter. We're from 16 here on Eastern and Valley. I just wanted to give you a little update on the latest. I'm sure you've been glued to the TV set. Our local fire, the tuna that was a LA City fire, broke into Burbank. We had numerous resources there. I think all in all, for the size of the fire, which was the largest brush fire in the history of the city of Los Angeles. But when you see these big fires on TV, the level of destruction is so great, and usually the loss of property and homes can be in the tens or in the hundreds. We were very lucky. We only lost 5 structures and 5 outbuildings. As far as injuries were concerned, we had 10 injuries, all minor. We had 1 firefighter that did hurt his hands, and 1 civilian that suffered from smoke inhalation. Number of resources, 56 engines, 2 helicopters from just LA City, and then all in all collectively, I believe we had 12, along with the super scoopers. numerous water tenders, dozers, numerous ambulances. We did transport a few civilians, and just minor, other than what I've already stated. Total firefighters was 711, and one, must think, gosh, why does it take so many people? Well, the four of us, if we get an assignment and we end up at a brush fire like this, and we end up in someone's cul-de-sac, we could at best protect 2 homes. So you multiply that by a huge area, it's quite daunting. Along with everything that was happening there with freeway closures and heavy smoke, the temperature was 106 degrees. So it got a bit challenging. As far as your local news, I'm sure all of you have been through your brush clearance this year. It's never fun. It's hard to put in perspective why you have to do what you do, but I just want to emphasize how critical it is, because a brush fire of the Latuna magnitude can happen here. Everything lines up just right, time of year, temperature of the day, a good Santa Ana condition that lasts 3 days, and it could be very devastating. It's never happened and may occur, but the potential is always there. Little news on, I know this has been going on for years, and that's in our rescue ambulance. My station lost that ambulance. I think it's been about 6 or 7 years now. And we, along with yourselves, have been promised that we were to get that ambulance back, and it has yet to occur. But most recently, funds through the city and funds through the federal government that are strictly allocated for resources that were cut out during the bad economic times. 4 of those fire engines are going to be reinstated. One of them is going to go to Fire Station 1, which is local to our battalion on Pasadena Avenue. And when that happens, we're hoping that the basic life support ambulances will come to Fire Station 16. If it doesn't come to 16, they will go to Fire Station 47 on Huntington Drive in Monterey. So that's a step in the right direction. That's all I have. I won't take any more of your time unless someone has any questions or current concerns.
A couple of days ago on our street, I saw a couple of fire engines trying to make a turn, and they kind of got stuck. And it's in Rose Hills. And so I had talked to Anthony before about the fact that we used to have a little red zone as we turned that corner. And because they went ahead and did the small lot development, and they put 3 little houses there, they took out that red zone, which is right across from the fire hydrant. I guess my question is, does the fire department ever get involved in terms of land use and whether or not they should be taking some of those red areas out that could have helped you turn the truck around?
We don't get too much in the land use unless it's really specific to the fire department, although this sounds like it would be. But as you know, this whole area, the roads are tight, steep. There's a parking issue. We do have red flag days where you either one side or the other of the street you're not to park. Maybe that, I don't know, I'm not real familiar with that particular area or your particular street, but maybe that can be turned into a red flag street, or at least that area in front of that hydrant.
What they did is they took it out and they put a driveway for a new little house there. And it's like, well, it was like a safety zone. It allowed you to stop to get that pump truck to go to the hydrant. Now it's not there. And I'm like, did anybody think about this before they gave them the permission to build that? And I was just wondering if they ever asked you about it at all. That was my question.
Yeah, not at my level, no. You would think it would go through a plan check. The fire department does review plans. It goes from one counter to the next building to the fire. I'm sure it got approved for whatever the reasonings were. So these are 3 individual homes, 3 individual driveways?
That's correct.
Okay.
And one of them actually took out the whole red zone. And then when we saw them,
We're trying to reverse. I mean, it was really, dangerous for everybody, including the fire department and the truck. And I said, we talked about this, but I'm not sure how this land development gets approved in terms of that small lot development. And I think it's going to occur a lot in those hills, because those hills have 25-foot lots. And so the developers are able to take advantage of that. And so you're going to see a lot of this being wiped out. Parking's already a problem.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, I just asked him.
Okay.
Thank you, Hugo. Any further questions for the captain? Thank you, Captain. I just want to mention before you guys showed up too, I also did serve at the La Tuna Fire 2 days, Saturday and Sunday as a volunteer. I'm a CERT member level 2, and I'm the Station 47 team leader. So I was out there for 2 days this past weekend myself. You guys did a fine job. Thank you. We'll now move to item 6C, which is our government reports. Do we have any representatives here from the Senator's office? Our Congressman's representatives? Governor's office and State Senator's office? Any representatives from the State Assembly District? County Supervisor or Mayor's office? Now we have Susie here from our City Council Member's office. Councilmember Pizarro. Good evening.
Hello everyone, I'm Susie, representative for Councilmember Weezer. Just wanted to give a few announcements. I know Jackie mentioned 2 events coming up, so I just wanted to mention one more. We do have an El Sereno community cleanup coming up, and this will take place on Saturday, September 16th. And we're going to be located at 4910 Huntington Drive South. So again, that's Saturday, September 16th. I did want to provide a quick announcement on the repavement that was done outside the El Sereno Senior Center. I hope all of you noticed. It was highly requested by the seniors, so we're glad we were able to get it done. And lastly, I would like to mention we do have our Clean Communities Initiative Fuego Tech team, and they've been working very hard all around El Sereno and the surrounding communities. If you follow us on our newsletter, you're able to see some of the locations that they target. For those of you that are not already signed up for our newsletter, please do so. Feel free to email me at Susana, SUSANA, .Lopez@lacity.org. And aside from our cleaning team, we do have 3 new members from a work source. They're hired through contract. They also help beautify El Sereno, and we mainly have them focused on Eastern and Huntington Drive. So right now we're very happy to have them for a little extra help. Other than that, that's all I have for today. Any questions for me?
Do we have any questions? No? Thank you so much, Susanna. We'll meet up for the cleanup. Do we have any representatives from the City Attorney's Office? And our budget advocates? Seeing none, I will now close item 6 and move to item number 7, which is the review of our minutes and approval of our minutes for the months of June, July, and August. And I will now turn it over to our recording secretary.
So I can
So I wasn't able to get the July minutes done because the tape is not up yet on YouTube, so I'm not sure why, but I couldn't finish it because of that. And I emailed everybody a draft of the June and August minutes. I don't know if anybody had anything to say about that or any comments, but if everybody got the email, then everybody can vote.
Okay, so do we have any motions for the minutes?
I'd like to motion that we
approve June 7th and August 2nd. General board meeting minutes.
Okay, we would like to do one at a time. So you make a motion for June 7th.
Okay, I'd like to approve the minutes for general board meeting of June 7, 2017.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Do we have any discussion or debate for the minutes? I understand that there's one spelling correction for Paul Mackey. Any other corrections or input for the June minutes? Okay, so seeing there's no discussion, this is a non-funding item. We'll take a show of hands for approving the minutes for June 7, 2017. All in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8. Those opposed, raise your hand. And those abstaining, raise your hand. That's 2, 802. 8 is a majority of the 10 of us seated, so that motion is approved to approve the minutes for June 7th, 2017. Those are approved. Any further motions for this item?
I'd like to motion to approve the general board meeting minutes for August 2nd, 2017.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. By Jackie? I just heard the vote. Yes, Jackie. Okay, thank you. Is there any corrections for those minutes?
There's one thing, but Rochelle can use the paragraph.
Any discussion or debate? Any stakeholders' input? This is a non-funding item. Again, it will be just show of hands for approval of the minutes for August the 2nd, 2017. In favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, that's 8. Those opposed, raise your hand. And those abstaining, raise your hand. That's 2, 802. That means the month of August 2nd will also be approved. And we just have outstanding July the 5th. No, yeah, those will be held over till next month. I made a circles, and those will be included on the next agenda, July the 5th, 2017. Item 7 is closed. We move to item number 8, which is our treasurer's report. Michelle is our treasurer, and she's here. And she could give the update on our finances.
Monthly report for the month of August. Total expense for the month of August was $1,384.03.
A motion for,
That's for August.
yeah, do we have a motion for August? You gonna make the motion?
Yeah. I'll make the motion to move forward to approve the August, I'm sorry, not the August, July. The July, because the August has not been, the funding system that the city clerk has put up has not generated the monthly report for August. They only have generated the monthly report for July, which is what you have a copy there on the paper clip. It's their format, their template, the way they put it together. So it's not like a working sheet that I put together and did it out of Microsoft Excel. No, they did it. So any of you can look at it as well. There's a link that you can go to any neighborhood council and go to the feature that says to name the neighborhood council. You click it and it shows you where each neighborhood council is at. But the one that you have before you is for the month of July. So I'd like to move a motion to approve the July monthly report expense for $2,639.73.
Jeff, I'm just trying to take a note. 1 moment. $2,639.73. Joel. Okay, Michelle. And it was second by Perla? Jackie, okay. Do we have any public comments for the approval of the July monthly expenditure report? It's $2,639.73. No public comment. Do we have board members discussion or debate for this item? Since he's, yes, go ahead, Aaron. Yes, sir.
I just wondered, what was that neighborhood purpose grant? Which one was that? The $1,500 was for what?
Okay, I do see it right here in that column, July 2017. The question goes to the treasurer, Michelle. Aaron is asking for the $1,500 expenditure, and it's under neighborhood purposes grant. Can you just please verify which is the recipient?
Aslan Athletics, so they already cashed out the check.
Thank you.
And I think we heard earlier in the announcement that their event is coming up on, thank you for that, September the 23rd, the event's coming up at Ascot Hills Park. So Aaron, thank you for that question. Anything further for the monthly expenditure report for the July? Okay, these funds have already been spent. It's just approving the monthly expenditure report, so it'll be just a show of hands. For the monthly expenditure report for the month of July, the motion was made by Michelle, second by Perla, $2,639.73. All in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those opposing, raise your hand. Okay. And those wishing to abstain, raise your hand. The tally is 8-1-1, 8 in favor, 1 opposed, 1 abstention, which will have 10 board members. 10, there's 10 of us. So those monthly expenditure report for the month of July is approved. And you mentioned, Michelle, that the month of August will be on till next month?
Hopefully, because they're the ones that generated the, once we submit to them the receipts. Because I took a picture of receipts, sent it to them, they generate, and they haven't done it.
Okay, thank you. So on my agenda, I just circled August 17th because it's still outstanding. July has been approved.
I just want to confirm, the vote is 9-1-1.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 8-1-1. 8, and then, right, and then 1 opposed, Fico Pacheco, 1 abstention, Anthony Manzano. 8-1-1. Okay, so item 8 is now closed. We move to item number 9, and item number 9 on our agenda indicates that we have no outstanding old business. So it automatically moves on, and we move to item number 10 at this time. Item number 10 is the discussion to fill vacancies. I'm not sure if you noticed during our roll call earlier this evening, we did have 2 vacancies. It's also printed on the agenda. We have 2 vacancies in the North region for reasons of resignations. We had board member Tom Williams resign and board member Marcia Guzman resign. Each of them are both in the North region. So what it does is it opens up 2 open positions in the North region. And what we'll do is there's a process as indicated on the agenda to take nominations. Sami, you had a question?
So a reminder, Marcia did not resign at that time.
Right, but if she wanted to, I have to accept the email for her to be back on the board. She would have to come today, and then the board will re-ratify her.
She can, she got in an accident.
I understand that with her ankle, yes. So hopefully maybe if we don't fill those 2 positions, maybe just 1, there'll be 1 available, we could do that next month. But I just gotta follow the process, and I understand that the email went through, but I just have to accept the one that said she did, even though she said I did it after, or I wishes to remain on the board. She did send me an email saying she resigns. And I can't overlook it or ignore it, basically. And her saying, I unresign, I want to take it back, is not enough for me. And meaning, I just can't arbitrarily say, okay, I will not review this email because this one says you wanted to change your mind. I just have to keep taking emails as I get them. So if she wanted to be on the board, she would have to fill the process, nominate herself, and then the board will fill it back in. She's welcome back to the board. So at this moment, I don't know if you guys are following along with the agenda. We don't have no more runner-ups in the North region. Let me check that. Let me see, North Region, at large, East, North. We have Marcia Guzman, Wayne Verdugo, Keith Cervillas, San Abdul-Jabbar, Tom Williams. So we have exhausted all of the candidates who ran in the North Region, which would be the same region. So item 10.1 is exhausted. Top runners up from any other region, I believe we've already gone through that, and that's how Anita Burchard filled the seat last month. So that 10.2, top runners up from any other region, meaning we do not have any other candidates who ran in the election in May of 2016 from any other region that could possibly transfer over to the North region since we have a vacancy. So since we do not have any top runners up from any other region, item 10.2 is then exhausted. So at this time what we do is we take nominations from the stakeholders or for the board. As long as those stakeholders do reside in the North region, we have a map over there to your left, which is on the board. If you're not sure, just name the street you live on, validate your stakeholdership status, and then you could self-nominate, or at this time I'll take board nominations to fill the North region.
I have a question, Mr. President.
Yes, Jackie?
I heard you speaking to Sonny about Marcia, so we couldn't nominate her, even though she's not here, even though she wants to come back onto the board?
It may seem that way, but we'd like to have all nominations present so that they could approve, like sort of accept it. And I'm sorry if it has to be this way, but I did receive an email, I don't know if the executive officers got it, saying I resign effective immediately, I think what it was. So I have to honor it. Then about a day or two, she said, well, I thought about it and I think I could still be on the board. And I'm like, well, I can't make that decision, I just have to say, you resign.
Here.
So at this point, we're now just taking nominations from the public for the North region.
Point of clarification.
Yes, Hugo?
You know, I remember that someone was voted in absentia, meaning that the person wasn't here, they were voted in, and they got on the board. Even though I was here and I had run for the board. Now, I kind of looked that up and said, well, why can that be done? And you know, actually in the parliamentary procedure, you can nominate someone, they can actually be voted in, and it's only after that person has been notified that they've been elected that they get to turn down. And I would ask that the president look at the ruling for the nomination for under parliamentary procedure. And that's on parliamentary procedure, that's the way it works. I don't like it myself, I think you ought to be here, but Robert's Rule of Order calls for anybody can be nominated. The person could be voted in absentia. It is only after they find out that they've been voted in that they turn down the election itself. It's a really weird rule, but it's in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pacheco, and I'm understanding that. It brings another thought to mind though, if we do vote them in and they are approved, that means they would also be incurring their first absence. So, since they're not here, and then that would also have to apply to that future director if we did it, and I just prefer not to go down that way because it just makes it more difficult in the future.
Well, it's not a question of preference, it's a question of, okay, our bylaws basically are out of sync with parliamentary procedure. And that is one of the charges of the bylaws committee, to make sure that everything runs in concurrence. So if our bylaws are a little messed up, that has nothing to do with the way parliamentary procedure should be adhered to.
Okay, thank you. We have Jackie.
I just want to read the email that we all received. It says, Dear Board, this is from Marcia. I hope you all are well. I had surgery on August 25th and I'm currently on restricted activity. So unfortunately, I will not be able to attend at the board meeting this month. And then she just follows saying that I will give up an update on the candidate forum because she still has been actively helping.
Thank you, Kathy. Jackie. Sorry about that. Thank you very much, Jackie. She's our vice president, by the way. Jackie Carrillo. So thank you for that. What we're still doing is taking nominations for North Region candidates. North Region candidates. We take self-nominations. North Region, yes, Sonny?
So just to ensure I understand
correctly. You're saying that we cannot nominate someone who is not here.
He's about to look.
Right, I'm gonna try to check it out, because I'm gonna try to clarify this quickly as I can.
Can we call for a recess while you look that up?
Sure, let me see, it is exactly 7 o'clock, give me 5 minutes, we'll take a short 5-minute recess.
We'll take a short 5-minute
We will
recess,
return
everyone.
to item 10, which is filling our vacancies.
Question is, what takes precedence? They actually found it. Parliamentary procedures or your bylaws?
Right. The new political also, but then the bylaw has there's an absence. Right. Well, the bylaw says we have to work. The bylaw says we follow the book. And it's here. It says if a member is elected and not present, what happens? If a member is elected and not present and has not previously said that if someone should call the member and say he or she will accept the office. If not, the
Hi, sir. How are you today?
during that meeting or another candidate.
Good to see you again. So, are you familiar with the way you're looking now? Anything after
She does, and she's still included in the bylaws. And have
down here?
Yeah, she's not here, and the bylaws say we're going to make 2 in a row. She's already missed the first one. That's why the bylaws are stuff. You need someone there. So my name is just next make it really easy. And then once you give me a call for this, because what you do when you go to executive is I am here to leave the The 5-minute recess is over. We have 7 board members. I need 1 more board member to come to the table, please. So we do have 8 board members here at the table. We have now come back from recess. It is 7:07. So we're with a 7-minute recess. Can you write it down? During that recess break, we were able to find it here in the Robert's Rules of Order. These are parliamentary procedures. Hugo has learned to work with them very well, so have I, and it just does so happen to say that we are allowed to follow this process. I'll read it out of page 196, Robert's Rules of Order. The heading is Other Points About Elections. Here are some other things to consider during the election process. The third one down indicates, if a member is elected and not present and has not previously said that if elected he or she will serve, someone should call the member to see if he or she will accept the office. I'll read the sentence one more time. If a member is elected and not present, that means it's possible to elect them, and they are not present and has not previously said that if elected he or she will serve, someone should call the member to see if he or she will accept the office. And that's what we're doing at this time. The last sentence says, if not, the members, which are here before you, can vote again during the meeting for another candidate. So we will give an opportunity for Marcia Guzman to see if she responds. The Robert's Rules of Order does indicate that she is allowed to be voted upon, but at the same time, if this body, keep in mind, does elect her, seeing that she is not present, the bylaws do apply, and she will also incur her first absence. So this is just the way we apply all the rules, evenly and fairly. 3, 6, 8. Okay, so at this time, I'd like to hear, or actually they're waiting for a call, but can we hear a nomination? Sonny wishes to nominate Marcia Guzman. Okay. Is there a second? Caroline. Okay, what we're going to do now is confirm and try to see if she responds, which Jackie Carrillo is Our Vice President is doing the kind gesture of contacting Marcia Guzman at this time. If Jackie returns and says Marcia is accepting, the board will take a vote and we'll follow the bylaws here, Robert's Rules of Order, page 196. And it indicates again, if a member is elected and not present and has not previously said that if elected he or she will serve, someone should call the member to see if he or she will accept the office. If not, the members can vote again during the meeting for another candidate. And these will be for the North Region seats. What we'll do is we will hold off to see if Jackie gets the information. Item 10 will remain open. Yes, sir?
Question of orders, please, Mr. Chair.
How does somebody incur an absence if they're voted in absentia and obviously not at the meeting?
They'll be occurring their absence because we're going to verify if she's willing to accept the seated position. But
Yes.
since they're not here, we can't count them as part of our quorum. They occur in absence. Because
Okay, what rule or order says that? Because obviously somebody who's not here cannot attend a meeting.
Correct. That's
So
why
how do they
document.
incur an absence under our bylaws?
Okay, let me show you. Can I just show them a little bit? Just a paper. On these documents, every time we vote, I could show it to you, Bruce. Go ahead, take a look. It indicates what our position is, and if we vote her in, it'll turn from vacant, North Region. We'll put in Marcia Guzman. Then on the side over here, it'll say absent. So the Robert's Rules of Order says we can vote someone in who's not here as long as they're willing to accept.
I understand that part.
And then once the board says,
But
okay,
how can you penalize somebody for being absent when you already know in advance they're absent?
that's just the process I'm trying to follow.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Where does that come from?
The bylaws. The bylaws indicate the absences. You're only allowed to have 3 absences.
Yes, I
in 12
understand that
months,
the bylaws say that you're only allowed 3 absences.
or 2 consecutive.
Where do the bylaws say that if you're absent and you're appointed in absentia, that you are automatically dinged for an absence?
That comes down to, I understand the question, because the bylaws don't specifically say that, because the bylaws haven't covered this process. That's why we're using the Robert's Rules of Order. But when it comes out to filling this form is when it applies. Meaning when it comes time to vote, each board member is listed on the tabulation. And when we get down to the one who was voted in absentia, which would be Marcia Guzman, we have to call for her vote. And she's not here. Then it should be marked down
Why
absent.
don't you count her as a board member during the next meeting instead of immediately while she's not here?
Then what we could do, and what would be the best thing, so she doesn't incur the absence, is still hold that seat over. Do not seat her, do not take her acceptance, do not even nominate her. Hopefully the vacancy is available next month, then she just runs with all of us here live. She'll be in person. And she won't incur an absence, and we don't have to go through this process by voting someone who's not present.
Okay, so is it in proper form, say like during the last elections, you were elected president? Did your presidential term start that very minute, or did it start at the next general meeting?
It started at the time of the meeting, that moment.
At that exact
That moment, yes. Yes.
That might be an issue that needs to be ironed out in your bylaws.
I think the very best thing to do is before we nominate them, and if no one wants to fill these 2 vacancies, then they're obviously going to carry over to next month, and then we don't have to go through this, and she'll be here live, hopefully.
Okay.
Anthony, if I could
Yes, Mr.
follow up on what Bruce was saying, and I think Tom was talking about it earlier, and that's that we have to have some standing rules that clarify how these little specific, details get ironed out, because it is true. How do you penalize somebody that didn't know they were going to get elected? Okay, in other words, again, it has nothing to do as, the bylaw is so general, it could be taken either way. So by making some standing rules, and I would hope that the bylaws committee would once again get together, which I'm a part of that. Okay, I'm part of it, but we haven't had a meeting because since we were told that we couldn't change bylaws, then nobody wants to get together to do any bylaw talk, I guess, or discussion. But I think this would be a nice time to maybe ask a standard rule be put together for the board to consider on how to iron this thing out.
Would that be a general?
Real quick, okay, go ahead to my left and I'll see what I'll get to you right now.
In that regards, Hugo, I think that you and the other board member on bylaws can call a meeting without the chair. As long as you're the majority, you can call a meeting. And you could sit down and you can discuss that.
Would you look under who calls? I think only the chair is allowed to call the meetings and locations.
But or a majority of the committee or the board.
The majority of the committee as well.
I don't know if that's what the bylaw says. Is that what the bylaw says?
Yes. And we don't have a motion before us, but George, do you have a point of order or some type of input?
Well, it's just more of a comment. I know it's not against Marcia or anybody else, but I think that doing this in absentia, voting somebody in is a precedent, because then in the future, it can be done again with anybody. And then I think people should be present to be able to, stakeholders should be able to hear what they stand for, what they're about, what they're here, you know, what their passion is. And I know Marcia, I mean, I've heard it already, but just to be fair, because if it didn't happen now, you gotta let it happen again. It's a bad precedent. So just, and again, nothing against Marcia, nothing against, you know, her at all. It's just, overall, it's just a bad idea to do it.
I agree with you, Jorge, and that's why I feel that way, but at the same time, the book does say it is allowed and acceptable. So I'm just gonna defer to the Vice President to see if we have an opportunity to reach Marcia. No? Okay. So
let me just to follow up on Jorge's comment. The reason I brought it up is because I was going to challenge somebody who had actually been elected in absentia when I thought I should have been here, because I was here and I was ready to go. But that bylaw was used against me, and I said, I want to fight this. I mean, on parliamentary procedure, I want to fight this thing. I'm trying to find out I was wrong. It can't be done. So I'm just trying to be fair.
Yes, and I just want to help clarify this, just so Mr. Wilson knows and Mr. Garcia. The bylaws specifically, which I would just hand to them, specifically say we refer to Robert's Rules of Order. So we are in compliance because Robert's Rules of Order on page 196 says we can do it. I just would probably prefer not to or advise not to, but we do have a motion from Sani. Actually, it's not a motion, it's a nomination. And a second from Perla to nominate Marcia Guzman. And with hearing that, Jackie was not able to confirm if Marcia is accepting, so according to this, we cannot move forward with voting on her, because I'll read it again, and it does say that she has to be accepting, which is the word. If a member is elected and not present and has not previously said that if elected he or she will serve, someone should call the member to see if he or she will accept the office. And with that effort, we were unable to communicate with Marcia, so we can't verify if she's willing to accept the office.
But isn't that what we're arguing here, is that Marcia was willing to, if she got accepted? I thought that was the whole purpose of the discussion, that Marcia said she would.
She just sent an email a moment ago and it didn't say that. Right?
What did the email say? She would serve if she got elected?
Not those exact words.
Okay, what is it?
Letting us know that she was unable to come. She was letting us know that she was unable to come, but there's several emails before that we were expressing that we didn't want to see her leave the board, but I know she's dealing with a lot of health issues, and now she's broken her leg. She's unable to walk. But in the email, she did say that she would like to come back on the board.
I remember that.
Again, that's exactly what the thing says. If she's willing to, if she got elected, she's willing to serve. So there was no need to even call her.
I'm just going to wait for a nomination. Do we have any other nominations for the North region? No further nominations? Okay, item 10 gets a circle that will remain on the next month's agenda for October. We have 2 vacancies in the North region. Any stakeholders wishing to nominate before we close this item? Self-nominations from the public? Okay, item 10 is not heard, it will be carried over for next month.
Mr. President,
Yes?
could a stakeholder who's not from the North Region self-nominate at this time, since we don't have?
They have to live in the North Region. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's the question.
They have to live in the North Region to represent the North Region.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. So we now move to item number 11. Item number 11 indicates that there's a discussion and possible action to reallocate funds from the operational category.
Anthony, you don't have to go to the North Region.
No,
Yes.
this is, the next one is not making stakeholders.
Right.
We have board members that are not representing their region, like he was in the south and he was in the west.
Right, but he did it as a runner-up, not as a stakeholder.
Because I know that it's right here, the C region, the top runners are nominated from stakeholders.
Right.
I mean, it's there. My understanding, they don't have to represent
They have to
the
live.
regions, but.
The only reason, just so Michelle, excuse me, just so our treasurer can understand, is we have some board members who don't reside in the region they represent, but they're still a stakeholder. And the second one says top runners up from any other region. That allows anyone who ran as a candidate to fill a vacancy from anywhere within the neighborhood council boundaries. But to be fair, the North Region is lacking vacancies. And it would be unfair if we started just shoving people who lived in the South Region or the West Region, say, hey, we have vacancies in the North, you fill it, you fill it. And they're truly not North Region representatives. That's occurring only because they filed as a candidate and they're a top runner up of any other region. But when it comes time to item 3, nominate from the stakeholders, board members may nominate stakeholders, or any stakeholder can request consideration for filling that vacancy.
Is there someone you're interested that you know of, Aaron?
No.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
And we have.
No, I mean, I know that we've done it in the past. You don't have to be from the region.
Yeah.
But I asked Aaron if that person was here so we can pursue it, but
Well,
don't worry about
You've
it.
never done it with me.
Yeah, we have. There's people sitting on this board that are not from their region. Stephanie is not from that
She's from the
specific
South.
region.
She's from the South.
So.
But she's a
It could-
stakeholder
It
in
could
the
be
South.
done, just like
No.
the way Marcia
But
could have
as
been
long- as
set
long-
down
as
without
long as
being
they're
her
a
presence.
stakeholder.
Sonny came on the board last night,
Sonny ran as a board member. His votes are right
so does
here.
Marcia.
Correct. Sonny
So
Abdul-Jabbar.
why can't we fill in Marcia?
Because
Like Sonny did.
we've already exhausted her. She resigned. Marcia Guzman. It is
Disregard, never mind. No point in
North
discussing.
Region.
That's fine, move on.
Okay.
Fine.
So we now move to item 11, which, item 10 is not closed, but what I usually do is just circle it, it'll be carried over to next month of October. We now move to item 11, it's a reallocation of operational expenditure funds into the Membership and Outreach Committee, also into the Beautification Committee, into the Ad hoc Board Engagement Committee, and into the Sports and Recreation Committee, into the Land Use Committee, into the Executive Committee, and into the Environmental Green Committee with a total allocations. Does someone wish to make this motion? Jackie? Is there a second? And Stephanie. Okay. On the agenda, we're on item number 11. Do we have any stakeholders wishing to provide public comment? This is a matter of finances. We'll be reallocating funds in our budget as indicated on item 11. Is there any stakeholders again wishing to give input? Board members discussion?
Yes, if I was looking at the reallocation itself. I know that our committee requested an additional amount of $1,500 based on some accounting that we did at the committee level. We're going to run out of funds after we hopefully get what we're going to discuss tonight funded. But then suddenly all this other stuff appeared and I said to myself, wait a minute, there's 12 committees. There's $9,000 to be reallocated. And then I said, the figures are all different. So what's the justification for each allocation? Now, I would hope that every committee would tell us why they, for instance, here we have a 2,000 for environmental green, and then we have an executive committee for 1,500, and then we have beautification for 500. In other words, there's all these different amounts. And I just wondered, because I talked about this the last time at the last meeting, that those $9,000 in general fund should have been reallocated fairly to each committee. And I remember Tom Williams specifically saying that he resigned because he got no money for land use. And again, I used to be the chair of the bylaws committee, and I needed money to be able to go ahead and advise or notify the stakeholders of the possible changes of the bylaws. So we printed those up. This time I see no allocation whatsoever for the bylaws committee. So again, I would like to see if maybe it could be explained why we have so many different numbers and how is that decided? Because how can I, as a board member, agree to this and say that it was a fair reallocation?
Mr. President, since I was a part of that executive board and
Go ahead, Jackie.
those conversations that took place there, which was, I think, a successful meeting. So several of the committees had requested for extra funds to be reallocated. So we discussed that, and I believe that executive board meeting video is up. Yes, thank you, Michelle. So each committee that's on here requested for some funding for activities that they might be doing or some of the things that they are participating in. So we discussed this and we reallocated as an executive board to these committees, but as a board we have to vote on just the funding that is there. So myself, for the Sports and Rec Committee, we got together and we met and we were figuring out all the events that we were going to participate in take place. So we thought we're going to run out of funding. So if we could use another $1,000 towards our committee, that would be great. Beautification had requested, they sent a request in for some more funding, and all the other committees on there as well. Anything else that I missed, Mr. President?
No, I'm going over the budget. Yes, the budget you provided also at the executive committee meeting. Is there any other discussion?
I don't want to belabor the issue, but I think it's important because we're talking about the money, and then I hope the ability still stands as we were told that when we created the so-called budget, proposed budget, that we could reallocate it at a different time. So, I would be willing to say, yeah, let's reallocate this money with the idea that, hey, folks, I think bylaw needs some money. The stakeholders should be informed of what the bylaw changes might be or standing rules. I mean, we can't just come up here and say, did you get an email? Did the board members get an email? They didn't get it. And so that's one of the reasons I did not vote for the minutes is because I never read the email. I hadn't had time to sit down and read the email. It used to be that we were able to provide all this stuff in writing, all this notification in writing, not just for us, but also for the whole public. Then something happened where it kind of didn't want the public to know what we were doing, because I don't know why, but only the board members knew what was going on, because they're the only ones that the public had to actually go up and look at the minutes and the agenda up on the board, one copy, and that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in terms of being open and transparent. Hopefully, those are the kind of things that maybe we can discuss in the future. I don't mind voting with the stipulation that in the future we can make those changes as necessary. Because I do believe there's some of these committees should get some money.
Thank you, Hugo. Anything else?
Yes, I'd like to look at this, at this motion, and I think we need an amendment. As we're calculating, we have a $500 amendment to the total, which is $9,000. Can I get a second?
Okay, but please clarify the amendment, Cynthia.
The amendment would be that the total amount of $9,000 would be $9,500.
Okay, and I'm counting it. The reason is because at the executive committee meeting, the summation did not equal 9,000. If you get the 1,500s that are on the right, 1,500 and 1,500 is 3,000. There's still another 1,500 for land use and executive committee. That's Another 3,000 is 6.
And 6,000.
7, 8, the 2,000,
9.
9,000 with the 1,000 above it, and 9,500. So just basically your amendment is only like a clerical correction.
It's a clerical by the 500.
But you're not changing any of the dollar amounts.
No, the dollar amounts to remain the same.
Okay, do those board members see that? It's not, so it is an amendment, but it's more like a clerical summation.
It has to be an amendment.
Correction, yes, it is an amendment though. Just so that it reads total reallocation is 9,500. Okay, so that was by Cynthia.
And second by Jackie.
Okay, amended. Are there any discussions on the amendment?
It's a public comment first.
Public comment?
Do the public have, see what we're doing with the agenda? Do you have that? We're item number 11, and it's just an addition or a summation of all these budget allocations equals 9,500 rather than 9,000. So is there any public comment on that amendment? Do we have board members discussion?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, Hugo. Go ahead.
Now, did I read this wrong? Correct me. But we had $9,000 that could be reallocated. So now we're saying we were reallocating 9,500. Where did the other 500 come from?
It's just a submission error. The numbers aren't added correctly.
Right, but he's asking here on the budget, we only have $9,000 available to move.
Didn't we say one of the committees was gonna give us some of the money to help us with the 9,000?
You have the budget, right? Does everyone have the budget? Do you see that, Asami?
Okay. Again, the motion does not read that way. The motion reads the general funds into the following. So there was only $9,000 that could be reallocated. You can't get 9,500 out of 9,000, and you have to actually be specific if you're going to move it from another category. You can't just say, well, we're going to give the 500 for somebody and not put it on the agenda, because then it's not brown bag.
What
Clarify your amendment, that it's
Right.
500.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and,
I don't think that helps out. What I'm thinking of, what Hugh was mentioning is the dollar amounts, to amend it, just so that we fall within our $9,000 general funds. Right.
it would take the beautification committee out.
No, I would just say, just instead of giving 2,000 to environmental green, just give them 1,500. And then next month, if the environmental green still needs $500, we could give them from the community CIP category. Just so we stay within those $9,000 that are in this general funds category. Does that make sense, Mr. Pacheco?
As long as you've asked the environmental green if they're willing to do that.
I understand, but if you look at the motion, one of the motions coming up is coming from environmental green, because the chair for environmental green discussed.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So
then just give less to membership and outreach and public safety and everything else.
well, it's just $500 once.
Yeah, but everybody $100.
1, 2,
Again,
4. How about the executive committee?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
1,000 for executive.
Take it to 1,000.
There you go.
And then we could work on that $500 next month for the executive committee?
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and withdraw my amendment.
Okay.
Jackie, can you withdraw your second?
She doesn't need to, just as long as you're the maker of the withdrawal, because we made the motion. So we'll scratch this out. For board members taking notes, you just strike the amendment as it was introduced, and we go back to the main motion.
We still need to make an amendment for
Yeah, you have to do it.
2,000. Oh, I'm sorry,
From executive to
from
the
executive committee.
You gonna do that, Cynthia?
Yes, I'd like to make the amendment to the original motion as read. The LA32 and C reallocate from the operational category under general funds into the membership and outreach committee, 1,500, beautification committee, 500, ad hoc voter engagement committee, 1,500, sports and rec committee, 1,000, land use committee, 1,500, executive committee from 1,500 to 1,000, and 2,000 for environmental green committee. Total reallocation is $9,000.
Thank you, Cynthia. Is there a second? Okay, it's the same as before. Cynthia. Do we have stakeholders' public comment on this item? But basically what we're doing is we're reducing the executive committee allocation from $1,500 to $1,000 to stay within the $9,000 budget. Any public comment?
Who's second?
Jackie. Do we have board members' discussion for this item?
I just want to say that any of the committees that don't use their money, it's always, reallocated back into the general funds category 100. And the executive committee still hasn't celebrated so that's why we were discussing that at that time.
We haven't set a date yet, so let's go ahead and just keep 1,000 the way it is, and then we'll reallocate it after.
Okay, so we'll take a position on the amendment only. The amendment is to reduce the executive committee from $1,500 to $1,000. Just taking a motion, taking the tabulation on the amendment only. $500 reduction for executive committee. Raise your hand to include this to the main motion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, the amendment, and those opposing, raise your hand. And those abstaining, raise your hand. 901, the amendment will be included. That means executive committee is now written down as $1,000. And if you do add them all up now, it does equal $9,000. So, do we have any public comment on the main motion? No public comment on the motion. This is a budget allocation, which is not a funding expense. So just board members will be taking a hand tabulation. It is to move monies from the general funds into membership and outreach, $1,500, beautification, $500, ad hoc board engagement, $1,500, sports and recs, $1,000, land use committee, $1,500, executive committee, $1,000, and environmental green committee, $2,000. It does give a total allocation for $9,000. Any last discussion or debate? A show of hands for the main motion of reallocating these funds to the appropriate committees. Total allocation is $9,000. All in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those opposed, raise your hand. Those abstaining, raise your hand. That is approved. So item number 11 is approved. Each of those committees will be increased by the indicated dollar amount. Total reallocation this evening is $9,000. Item 11 is closed. We now move to item number 12. It says discussion and possible action to hear the recommendation of the grievance panel for grievance number 77. Indicates that grievance 77 is sustained in part. The grievance is sustained for the general board meetings of February 1st and April 5th. The grievance is rejected for special general board meeting of April 17th, 2017. The grievance panel's recommendations 1, 2, 3, 4. Before we go into this, is there anyone who wishes to make the motion?
I'd like to motion that we hear item 12 as read, discussion and possible action to hear the recommendation of the grievance panel for grievance number 77.
Thank you. Is there a second? Hugo. Okay, now we take public comment. Is there any public comment who wishes to weigh in on item number 12? Do we have board members' discussion for this item?
Yeah, can we get the grievance panel or somebody from the grievance panel to explain this?
Right.
Yeah, kind of how the recommendation came about or why the recommendation's there.
I have that here. Grievance panel. We have Michelle Corsantes. We also have, this one's crossed out. It was Jose Tom Williams, but that was crossed out. Rolando Lopez is crossed out. Yoli Garcia, no. Aaron Ostrom. But it was changed.
No, I was on the grievance panel, as was Yoli Garcia.
And Michelle and Bruce Wilson.
Bruce Wilson.
Okay, that's the one I don't have his name on it. So that committee was composed of 2 stakeholders and 2 board members, Yolanda Garcia, Bruce Wilson. The 2 directors is Aaron Ostrom and Michelle Corsantes. So your question, Hugo? Ask it one more time so we could have it answered.
Yeah, I mean, the recommendation was made by the council. I would maybe get the panel to explain what this is?
Okay. So
What does it mean? Because I have a little hard time understanding, to be honest with you.
we'll have Aaron or Michelle assist with that, with answering your question.
So basically the grievance had to do with, the grievances had to do with starting the board meeting before 6 o'clock. One of them was a special board meeting. That was the meeting of April the 17th, and the panel believed that there wasn't a problem with that. The panel believed that there was a problem with the procedures hadn't been correctly followed for the beginning of the board meetings for February 1st and April the 5th. So the panel believed that the board meeting should have started at 6 o'clock and that it shouldn't have started early. And so we did understand that there could be different interpretations as to what starting means. The idea that, well, the real guts of the meeting might not begin until a quorum of board members are seated and business can occur. But in the end, we thought that nothing that's on the agenda should occur before the posted time. So anything that's on the agenda shouldn't happen earlier than 6 o'clock, which is what our bylaws state, or an earlier time if that was approved at the previous board meeting a month in advance. So that's what the panel agreed on. Let's see, what else? Do you have any questions about that then? So I should respond then to the 1, 2, 3, 4. Generally, why these things? Well, it's because a grievance gets to choose items that would satisfy the grievance, remedies, as it were. And so they were from a variety of remedies that the grievance sought. The panel thought that we would reject some of those remedies and we would agree to some of the remedies. So these were the remedies that the panel decided to recommend to this board. It's only a recommendation. And that, by the way, these remedies would satisfy the grievance. And so with these remedies in place, we wouldn't expect this grievance to move on to a higher level.
And I guess if you could just explain those remedies.
All right. So the board directors individually and collectively are responsible for ensuring all times and dates on public notices are accurate. So I think this has to do with on some of the agendas, there were different times. I think the dates were all right, but there were different times in the title of the sort of at the title line, and then a different time was given for the beginning of the agenda. In other words, there was some typographical, probably, some inconsistencies in the stated time of the meetings. Let's see what else. Then the board, the panel recommends, in other words, the point here is just to ensure, to do some double checking to make sure that when the agenda comes out, that the times given throughout the agenda are consistent, the times and dates. So to check for typographical errors. Then the board should adopt the policy that meetings start with the first agenda item and that this time shall never be before the stated official start time as stated in the bylaws, Article 8, meetings, etc. So as it is now, meetings happen at 6 o'clock on Wednesdays, on the first Wednesday of the month, and so that's what we go with. And nothing on the agenda, for example, the welcome should transpire before 6 o'clock. So 5:45, 5:49, 5:59 is a no-go. Those are empty spaces. 6 o'clock the welcome can take place. That's the board's recommendation. We do understand that there may not be a quorum yet. Nevertheless, that's when we think things should begin. And part of the reason for that is we think that all of it is the meeting. And so remarks of the people, those are things that stakeholders might want to hear as well. Then to mandate training for the agenda setting from Empower LA to all directors during general board meetings. So if there's advice or guidance that would be in the line of training that Empower LA would want to give us concerning agenda setting, that we would be grateful for them to give us that advice or training during a board meeting, not outside, not extra training. And then placement of the LA32 Neighborhood Council General Board agenda under the review of the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment before posting. And we think that's already being done. We think the agenda is done before it's posted. And we think it'd be a good idea to continue that. Anything else?
Mr. Pacheco, anything further?
No, thank you. The only thing that I'm wondering about in terms of this demerits that we get from the department. And so I'm thinking of well, I guess first we have to discuss whether or not we accept these recommendations, right? But my worry is in terms of punishment. I mean, I can't see there being a punishment for this. No, because I think that was the idea, that somebody was going to feel like, oh, you're saying I'm doing something wrong, and the whole idea is to just find corrective action, right? So that everybody's in sync. That's the whole idea, and then that way, and the reason for that. Is that correct?
That's right. The board didn't think that anything malicious had happened or that anyone was trying to, that the board was trying to break the rules. Because it's important to note that a grievance is not brought against a board member, an officer, or anything. It's brought against the whole board, because the whole board participates. And we thought that it would be, that these were things that would satisfy the grievant and at the same time perhaps prevent a similar grievance from occurring in the future. No, there's nothing punitive here.
If I may comment on it?
The chair. Well, yeah, I'm going to release the chair in just a moment because I'd like to weigh in on discussion as well. So we do have a motion before us. Have we taken public comment? We haven't yet.
He's a member of the panel.
A member of the panel, yes, okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to release the chair because I want to weigh in also. So Vice President Jackie Carrillo, at this time, go ahead and you'll take over the chair of the meeting for this item.
I will allow Bruce, if you'd like to speak from the committee. Thank you.
Certainly. In this arena, a grievance is not a tool for punishment or embarrassment or targeting anybody. What it is it's a stakeholder, and only a stakeholder, having the opportunity to say, some rule or regulation has been broken and we need to address this. And in that spirit, the ad hoc grievance panel approached that, studying only the grievance and nothing outside of that grievance. What exactly happened? Is that actually a violation of the bylaws? And if it is a violation, what remedy can we come up with to ensure that this violation doesn't happen again? And that's basically, we were laser focused on that. And I'm just thankful that with only 4 members, it wasn't a 2-2 split, because we'd still be arguing about it. But as it turns out, the majority ruled that on 2 occasions, there was a violation, and that remedies should be applied. On another occasion, we could not sustain a grievance. It's not a question of right or wrong, or who made a mistake or anything. It's can this grievance be sustained? In a third instance, the grievance could not be sustained. So we developed remedies to ensure that we can avoid these problems in the future. And that's basically right, wrong, good, bad, whose judgment was better, how the decision came out, that doesn't matter. It's the decision of the ad hoc grievance panel is that sustain, sustain, unsustain. And now it's up to the board to decide if these remedies are acceptable to the board or not.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bruce, for participating and taking time to be a part of that panel. Mr. President?
Thank you very much, Jackie. I want to appreciate the service of the panel for hearing this item, and obviously for Mr. Chavez, who's not here, the grievance, submitting the grievance. I have a copy of the actual grievance as submitted, and it indicates specifically bylaws violation, Article 8, Section 1A1. And when you go to the bylaws, that one specifically does indicate, and possibly how the grievance originated. 1A1 says, LA32 Neighborhood Council General Meetings shall be held on the first Wednesday of every month and commence at 6 p.m. at the El Sereno Senior Citizen Center. On today's agenda, it indicates that the grievance is sustained for the General Board meeting of February 1st. Well, as the President, I'm here to stand and protect the body as well. I wish I had an opportunity to speak at the grievance panel hearing, but it was placed at an unreasonable time during the afternoon that I couldn't make it that day. So here's my opportunity to address the position of the board. On February the 1st, I have my notes here and had the panel have an opportunity to review them. That meeting actually started at 6:10. So what it indicates on the agenda that the grievance is sustained for the General Board meeting of February 1st, 2007, that means the meeting must have, or did, according to the panel, start prior to 6 o'clock. It didn't happen. I have my notes here. There was 14 stakeholders, 1 came in later, 3 came in later, which is a total of 18 stakeholders. But the meeting started at 6:10 p.m. So that would be contrary to the item that's indicated or what the grievance panel is sustaining. But more importantly, is what the bylaws state. The bylaws state that the meeting must be held on the first Wednesday every month at this location and commence at 6 p.m. The burden of proof on the panel to the grievant must prove that the meeting started, like the panel mentioned, at 5:58, 5:59, 5:45, 5:30. None of that never happened. What did happen though is I, with intent, put the start time of 5:45. What I did that for is to encourage board members to show up early. As today you noticed that we were a little late with quorum. To give an opportunity for the board members to engage the stakeholders, to help set up, to do a little bit of extra activities, to please arrive prior to the meeting start time. But never in 12 or 13 years has the meeting actually started prior to the time indicated in the bylaws. So I would ask that you guys do not sustain the grievance panel's position to sustain the grievance for obviously February the 1st, which is here, because that never happened. And also for the one of April the 5th, I have that agenda here as well, but it doesn't have a time on there. But that also did not start prior to 6 p.m. So the burden of proof is on the grievant. The burden of proof is on the grievant to prove that the meeting started prior to 6 p.m. And that's why I printed out a little document from the Webster dictionary that says commence. That is the main word of importance because that's what the bylaws state. The bylaws state that shall be held on the first Wednesday of every month and commence at 6 p.m. at the El Sereno Senior Citizen Center. And as my duty as president, I'm familiar with the bylaws. I do not start my meetings early. Although I did place it on the agenda just to show up early. But that still doesn't mean we started at 5:45 because we didn't do that. We started at 6:10 on one day and obviously 6, and today I made my notes. Today we started another day. And my notes would indicate that we do not start our meetings prior to 6. So I would ask that you guys do not sustain the panel's recommendation, because the burden of proof from the grievant is not established that the meetings actually started or commenced is the word in the bylaws prior to the time indicated, which is 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, President Anthony Manzano. Any comments from the public?
Oh, yes, indeed. Now, I don't know about the February 1st meeting, but I was here for the April 1st meeting. And it started before 6. I don't know the exact time because Ruben Chavez was over there pitching a fit because we were having a Pledge of Allegiance before 6 o'clock. Now, the minutes aren't available online to me, but they were available to Michelle and perhaps Aaron, who were on the ad hoc grievance panel, and they said, well, look here, Anthony wrote down 6 o'clock that it started, which is falsification of government documents. Absolutely. Now, I'm sure you didn't mean to do that on purpose, but the meeting on April 5th did indeed start before time. But beside that, above and beyond all that, is you have 2 different times stated on it. And that causes confusion for the shareholders. On the header you have 5:45, and then on the agenda 6 o'clock. So the ruling of the grievance panel, which is a ruling you should not even be bothered about trying to defend or demur on, is that despite what the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment has to say about it, despite what Robert Rules has to say about it, despite anything, when you tell a stakeholder a meeting starts at 6, that's exactly what it should mean. And thus, we came up with that ruling and resulted in that remedy. But now, February 1st, I wasn't there. April 5th, I was here and I know exactly what happened. So, you may not remember because you automatically go down 6, but it didn't indeed start before 6. And you recall Ruben throwing a fit about it.
Thank you, Mr. Bruce. Is there any board discussion? One more from, go ahead. Yes, sir.
Simply want to thank Mr. Pacheco for clarifying the grievance thing because I just had to catch up on it. But anyway, that's all. Just thank you because I was I wasn't sure what the grievance is about. Thank you for asking me to clarify it because you asked what will come prior to my knowing what the grievance is about, and now this discussion here helped clarify a lot of points. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pacheco Rocks. Any other board discussion?
If I could, I think it's a question of personalities. And Anthony, I don't think it's anybody saying that, you did anything wrong on purpose. I think your intentions were good. I think you wanted the community to get involved and come together. But I think the confusion is that if it says the first item is at 6 o'clock, then the stakeholders, when you put down that the meeting will be, it has to coincide. That's the whole idea. Otherwise, it causes confusion. Because no one knows, can't figure out in your head, I did this to this purpose. Or let's say you did it because you wanted to celebrate somebody's birthday that day. No one would know that. And so that in order not to cause any confusion in the future, the time that is on the agenda should correspond with the first item of business. And I think that's usually what happens in any agenda. And again, what your intentions were good, but I think to be able to do this like the rest of the world kind of functions. If you call a meeting for 6, that's the starting the first item at 6. Now, you have no control whether there's going to be a quorum or not. And that would delay it after 6. But that has nothing to do with you. The meeting is at 6, and that is what should be posted on all notices. Otherwise, tomorrow, let's say I'm president, and I decide, you know what, Anthony had a great idea. I want to have it at 5 o'clock, so everybody comes here an hour early and has a social hour. Can't have it that way. The folks basically look at the clock and say, okay, I know it starts at 6. If I'm late after 6, that's my problem. So that, I think that's all the recommendation is. There is nothing saying that you did anything wrong, that you were trying to be nefarious or a bad person. No. I think your intentions were good, but I think this is a good recommendation. And that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pacheco. Any other board discussion? Yes, Cynthia?
Yes, I do agree with what Hugo is saying, and it says here that 2 of these meetings had been agreed upon in that respect because of the time. I know that I used to come here at 4:45 and I'd wait for the door to be open, and that's just my way of doing things. And I think if you just have communication with your board and say, board, let's all get here at 5, 5:15, 5:30, 5:45. As a board, have communication with your board members. Then we would all agree, I would be here at 4:45, Mr. Pacheco would try to be here at 5:15, 5:30, and then we would all have some kind of an understanding. But what that did was confuse some of the stakeholders, and Mr. Chavez brought a point. It was discussed, and so now we have to just remedy the situation.
Thank you, Ms. Cynthia. Mr. President, Anthony Manzano?
Yes, thank you real quick, Jackie. I understand the input from my fellow colleagues and from the panel, Mr. Wilson. But what it is it's almost like being in court, and we'll find out shortly what kind of jury you guys are relating to the facts of the case. The bylaws indicate that we only meet on the first Wednesday of each month at this location, and again, the word is commence at 6 p.m. It has to be proven that the meeting started prior to that time. Now, whether I did put 5 o'clock or 5:45 or 4:30 if I wanted to, it may confuse some people, but that's not a violation of the bylaws. That's just Anthony saying that's the way he wants to run his meetings. He's trying to get here people early, and my own intuition is to say that's what I wanted to do posting-wise. But on that very same agenda, it will indicate call to order, begins at 6 o'clock, because I'm very familiar with these items. Call to order, item number 1, I'll pull it up.
Thank you.
What I want to mention though is when you're voting, you're not voting on whether you like me or you got confused or what, even on paper. You have to vote on whether the bylaws were violated. And that has to prove whether the meeting started prior to 6 p.m. or not. And the videos will show, the records will show, my documents will show that none of the meetings did start prior to 6. And that's the only way you base your decision, not on whether you were confused, not on whether even if the agenda stated 5:30 or 5:45 or 5:59. Beginning time of the meeting is 6 p.m. or later, and sometimes I don't want to wait for a quorum to be established. But the burden of proof for what you guys are determining, whether the grievance panel heard this correctly through the grievance, which happens to be Ruben Chavez, to prove if we actually started a meeting prior to the stated time on the agenda. Not what I wrote on a piece of paper. So we'll be taking notes. I don't have any more comment. But we've always been in full compliance. I don't start the meetings early, not even 1 or 2 minutes early. And these instances, I guess, as Mr. Wilson mentioned in April, we didn't start 2 or 3 minutes early, not 5 minutes early, at 6 p.m. And even the one in February 1st, as indicated, we started 10 minutes late. So by default, if the minutes or the documents show that the panel didn't have this data or information, and we never started at 6, then I would encourage you guys to vote no. And I understand the confusion part. Maybe it wasn't the best way to write it. Maybe I should have been more articulate and informed the people, hey, I want you guys here early. It makes it look good on us. It makes it look good for the stakeholders. And those 15 minutes is just sort of leniency time, like for us to interact. But that wasn't the start time of the meetings. Item number 1, call to order, said 6 p.m. on the very same document where it said 5:45, if you refer back to them. And then in compliance with the bylaws is what we're voting on, not on whether someone was confused or what someone was written an inappropriate time on the bylaw, on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Any other board comments?
I have that email, I forwarded the email to the entire board right now. What Bruce was saying, the April 6th, the email's forward to you, board right now. We did not, the panel decided not to bring any evidence because we looked at all the evidence at our panel meeting, and the majority of the board said no need to bring the evidence because it has been looked at very like detailed at everything, and what Bruce is referring to, I just forwarded out to you, the April 5th meeting where Bruce is saying that the meeting was started at 6. That's one of the documents we were looking at that you were asking about right now, so I forwarded to you guys.
Thank you, Michelle. Any other board discussion? Mr. Pacheco?
Just kind of hopefully end this thing. First of all, this is a recommendation on how to try to make an agenda so they make sense to stakeholders. So that the two times correspond, the beginning of the first item and the stated time of the beginning of the meeting agenda. I would recommend that we go ahead and accept the panel's recommendation. If for some odd reason it seems that it's that important to continue fighting it, then I guess Dunn can deal with it at that point. But I would recommend at this point that we accept the recommendation, and very specifically I would like Dunn to be involved in teaching us how to make a proper agenda so that it does correspond. And that way there's no more confusion as to, maybe tomorrow as chair I decide you guys all will be here at 5, but we're not going to start till 6, okay? So with that in mind, and hopefully this ends this item, hopefully we can get a positive vote and have Dunn teach us how to do agendas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pacheco. Michelle?
The recommendations, the 1, 2, 3, 4 are the recommendations that when the stakeholders submitted the grievance, he gets to check off the recommendations that Empower LA suggests. So these are the 4 that we chose out of, I think there was like 19 recommendations, and there was actually more. Ruben really wanted us to take it to the max, but we felt there was no need to do that. But these 4 recommendations were worded from Empower LA. We didn't word them. Just so you guys know, when you guys are assuming who came up with the wording, it's coming from Empower LA. Just wanted to clear that to the board members.
Thank you, Ms. Michelle. Any other board discussion? So I can hand it back over to the president.
No, it is not against.
It's against the entire board.
It is never against the member of the board.
I'm sorry, I'm corrected.
Okay, board, we're gonna vote. Those in agreement with the grievance panel's recommendations for item number 12, show of hands. 1, Joe? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 yeas and abstain. 1. And noes? 1. 8, 1, 1. And it passes. And I would like to hand it back over to our president, Anthony Manzano, to continue the agenda.
Thank you. That closes item 12. We'll now move to item 13, discussion possible action that the LA32 Neighborhood Council fund up to $3,000 for sofas here at the El Sereno Senior Citizen Center.
This will relate to all the remaining funding items. Can I make a quick 30 seconds on procedure?
This will make it this might make the meetings go a little faster, okay? Per the Brown Act, all your votes, Stephanie, that you have to capture how everyone voted. I know at the funding training that most of you been on, this is that for all the funding items, you need to take a roll call vote, right? Sanjay, how'd you vote? All right, how'd you vote? But I checked with our staff, and you could, if city clerk gets mad at me, it's been recorded, okay? But this could make the meetings go a lot faster. It's up to you. You still chair. I mean, the one way we could do is that as long as Stephanie has a record of how each person voted, we don't need to do and I checked, we don't need to do the, Joe, how did you vote? Hugo, how'd you vote? Because that takes some of your time. So one procedural way that you can do is this. So this is just the best practice. Once again, your training is up to you. Is that what you do when it comes to all items in funding, you can say, are there any abstentions? Are there any no's? If you know the abstentions, you know the no's, you know who the yeses are. And then Stephanie will have a record right there, how we do it faster. In that way, they'll make the meetings go, that's just somewhat administrative tool. As long as we have a record, when the city clerk gets a record of how the board voted, that'll make your meetings go a little faster. So that's just a recommendation. Okay?
Thank you, Tom, thank you. We're still on item 13 at this time, which is a funding item. That LA32 Neighborhood Council spend up to $3,000 to purchase new couches and sofas here for the Senior Citizen Center. They'd be placed out in the lobby or the foyer area. It indicates couches, sofas, and coffee tables for the El Sereno Senior Citizen Centers. The couches will be branded with LA32 Neighborhood Council logo, and funds will be taken from the Outreach Committee. Is there a member who wishes to move this item?
I'll move that item. Second.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Jackie. Do we have public comment on this item? No public comment. Now is the board members' discussion for this item.
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, I think I brought this up a couple of times, and that is we've been recorded as saying that these couches were in kind trade for being able to use that room. So if this is the continuation of that particular type of activity, I would caution that it should not be a trade, and that we should have some clarification that it is not a trade, that in writing or whatever, that there's never been an agreement that we're going to buy those couches because we're not allowed to pay for that rent. But it was a way of providing for the use of that. The other thing that I think I'm asking myself here is funds to be taken from the outreach category. What is the outreach category? What are we talking about here? Does that mean that each one of us is going to give funds up from our committees for this? Where is those $3,000 coming from? What committee is going to give up the money for the $3,000 in the outreach category?
Thank you, Hugo. Is there any other discussion? Mr. Pacheco, is my understanding that we are not doing any type of trade or services for monetary compensation for the $3,000 for the sofas, the couch, the dining table, or coffee table, coffee table, for the use of this facility. That's free on behalf of the Senior Citizen Center. We're not paying for any rent. We don't pay any invoices, except for the use of this facility for staffing on the first month of each month, first Wednesday of each month. But for the use of the room and the backyard to store equipment, there is no compensation of fees or applied charges that we are trading services, which would be $3,000 for couches, sofas, and coffee tables at the El Sereno Senior Citizen Center for the use of that. I haven't seen that. There is no verbalization. There's been no vocalizations of it. There's nothing in writing. We don't have no invoices. Anything to indicate that that's how this is coming about. My understanding, and I was at the executive committee meeting, and I heard it from stakeholders as well as a phone call from the senior citizen. Her name is Ernie. She's the president of the senior here. Probably her picture's on the back wall over there, saying that the couches in back are in need of replacement. She was asking for our neighborhood council for assistance. I've been made aware that there's different kinds of insects in those couches, which don't please me. But I think this is just another way that the neighborhood council can provide an outreach service. The reason why I was turned back the first time is it was considered more so as a gift. And now we're doing it through the process of a branding item, so it becomes our product, our equipment, or our tangible sofa, recliner, coffee table, a vase for flowers in the corner. Those will be the property of LA32 Neighborhood Council, and they'll just be out there with our items either stitched on it, embroidered on it, embossed in it, something like that. So that's how this purchase is coming along. Any other questions?
The second part was, it says that the funds are coming from the outreach category. Where? From where? I mean, are we talking about category 200? Where is the money coming from?
Right, I would have to ask the treasurer to clarify that information.
We discussed that at the executive committee. And it's from environmental agreement. That's what we discussed at the executive committee.
Yes, we did.
And everybody got the use of the
Okay, thank you, Michelle. So out of the outreach category, each of the committees is listed. Environmental Green Committee will be the one listed. Even though it's not printed on here, we're still in compliance because it's out of the same category, which is category 200. But listed, if you're looking for which committee, my understanding it will be Environmental Green Committee. But it's still under category 200, outreach.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, when you think about environmental green, I mean, you would think that you don't want to kill the bugs. I mean, that's kind of like the environmental green idea. How does this fall into that category? How do couches fall into environmental green, number one, right? And the other thing is, an interesting thing that came up during our committee meeting, and that is that sometimes people say, why do you guys discuss these issues? For instance, I heard this was discussed at the executive committee. And why is it not discussed, why is it rediscussed here, right? And I think this brings up a good reason for being. Number one, unless it's a joint board meeting, we can't be at that meeting and talk. So therefore, the only time that we ethically have a fiduciary duty, and that is to question it here. And that is why I'm bringing it up at this point, so that the stakeholders can understand this makes no sense. This is not an environmental green issue. And to say, and to agree with that would be ethically wrong. Just because you're trying to find a place to find funds. I can't see how you can justify this being an environmental green program. Thank you.
Do we have any further discussion? Yes, Aaron?
Yes, so I think the sofas and the furniture is a wonderful idea. However, I'm a member of the Environmental Green Committee and I've never heard of this. So I can tell you that the Environmental Green Committee did not meet and discuss this, let alone put this forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other discussion? Any input from the treasurer? Do you want to give any input, Michelle?
This was approved on, I forgot what day we approved it. The category that we approved it was from the CIP, Community Improvement Project. The city clerk said they're willing to do it, but not from the CIP category. So they said, take it back to your board and reallocate for it to come out of outreach category. So either we would create a subline and say couches, or out of a committee, or operations, but they specifically said, city clerk said, it's approved. We have the board vote, we have the footage where we all did yes, there's 8 yes, that this was already approved. But because it says from the CIP category, it is considered a gift. And they said it cannot be given as a gift. It could only be done as an outreach, which means the park director will give us an invoice. We pay the park director and they have to purchase the couches. We cannot purchase the couches because it's another city entity and we would be giving that as a gift. We already spoke to the park director. We already spoke to Cali, who is above Juan Guzman, the park director. They don't have the funds because this was discussed at the executive committee where Anthony asked maybe they have funds elsewhere. Cali, who is the above Juan Guzman, said they don't. This is one of the reasons why they reached out to us, why the seniors are reaching out to us, why our stakeholders who have meetings with us are reaching out to us, and why some of us board members felt that we don't have an office, and Jackie said it perfectly at the executive meeting. We don't have an office. We use these couches when we have meetings. It's open doors for us. When there's something going on in this room, we can walk in, sit there and use it, and they won't charge us if it's a committee. Because they said, if the facility is being used and you need to have a committee meeting, you are welcome to do so because someone's already using this big room and we can sit in that lobby, which is what we've been doing in the past. And as we sat there, we've had, bugs, roaches, and all kinds of weird things crawling on us. But this is why we brought it back. August the 8th, it was denied. City clerk reached out to me and followed up and said, where are you at on this? Did you go back to it or not? Cynthia did the training. They also asked her at that funding training. It was approved. Have your board look at it again. and take it through outreach. So this is why we put it on the executive agenda, so the executive board could discuss it and move it forward to date.
That's very helpful, actually.
Thank you, Michelle.
I think that's a very helpful and thorough explanation. That makes me understand why going through parks that we come to the Environmental Green Committee. And I think it sounds like a great thing, really. It's just that once again, the Environmental Green Committee hasn't met to discuss this, let alone form a recommendation on that.
Let me say something, Mr. Pacheco. We just gave $1,000 to the executive committee. The executive committee made a decision. Why didn't they take it out of that $1,000? And because this is the things that I've been arguing about. You say that only the committees can make the recommendations for what's brought before the board. Now we have an obvious situation here where the committee has not even met on this. You have a different committee making a decision for another committee, an executive committee making a decision for the beautification committee, or environmental green committee, excuse me, sorry. And again, that's why I keep going back to what our procedures are supposed to be. So I would say that the only way to logically do this is to send it right back to environmental green, if that's where you're going to get the money from, and have that discussed there, have the stakeholders be able to chime in on this, and not do it at the executive committee. If the executive committee decides they want to do it, let their $1,000 go towards that until the environmental green decides. See, the thing here is that you're being denied, you're being denied, you're being denied because we did it wrong on that motion. And you're trying to fix a motion. You're trying to fix a motion that we voted for. But it's on a roundabout way, and it's not the ethical way of doing it, because you're not allowing your stakeholders enough of an opportunity to chime in on how they feel and what they want to do, because they maybe want something else. This is not the way to do it, folks. This is circumventing the system.
Thank you, Hugo. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, I did have a discussion to, well, actually a reconsideration, but I guess we would have to proceed with this motion. Because my suggestion would be, if it's really bothering some board members or feel that they didn't give their input, maybe we reconsider to reallocate and amend. We're not increasing the amount, we're just amending another sub-line, like versus environmental green. This is why we gave them our environmental green the $3,500, because it was going to come from there. And once again, if we could have put more money back to environmental green down the line if they need it for an event, you know, we could take it out of elections. It's not like that's it, we only get $500 after we take the $3,000 for the couches. But maybe a suggestion would be maybe we could reconsider, go back to the budget and move it to executive committee and take it out of the executive committee under outreach category. Yeah, I mean, if that's going to ease everyone and make them feel comfortable. I mean, it's going to come out of outreach committee because it's outreach committee category. And you know, Aaron obviously is sharing that, you know, he didn't know, he didn't give his input. We just said environmental green, executive committee just, we all sat there and said, yeah, that sounded nice, but maybe we should just reconsider and move. We're not increasing, we're just moving out of environmental green 2,000 into executive, so it could come out of executive committee.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm not going to weigh in on the discussion, but I'm going to try to clarify some of the questions that Mr. Pacheco had, and thank you, Michelle, for the clarification also. When we first voted on this, the board took a position to approve, support, purchase sofas, couches, dining tables, some furniture that's much needed here for the senior center. So basically, the way I see it as the president is we're reaffirming the previous board's position. Why are we doing this again, though? You say, oh, well, why again? If the board already voted once, then let's do it. You heard the treasurer mention that when they processed this, it was submitted through category 300. We have 5 categories to fund. 1 is operations, 2 is outreach, 3 is community improvement projects, 4 is, I should go like this, 4 is neighborhood purposes grants, number 5 is our elections. So to help Mr. Pacheco with this is, it was originally submitted as category 300, community improvement projects. The city said they do not accept it. But that doesn't mean the board voted inappropriately. The board took its position, we approved this, and we felt it's a viable purchase. What the city is asking us to do is to put it into a category so that the LA32 gets recognition for our purchase, so it doesn't become a gift. So now it falls into category 200. Well, when we submit the documents that Michelle has over here, the city clerk and the funding department, it doesn't matter to them if it's public safety, arts and culture, sports and recs, education, environmental green. As long as it's category 200, that's the only thing they need to see in downtown. They can, I don't want to say a bad word, but they could care less if it's public safety, environmental green, sports and recs. They're not worried about that. All they need to do is see the 200 in front, they're okay. We as an entity do understand though that we're trying to serve our stakeholders so that every committee is providing funds in their component so that the stakeholders are getting funds and services in education, in environmental green, in public safety, in the sports and recs. So we sort of break down our internal outreach budget to reflect that. Actually, I think these committees should be about 300.
Are you now arguing for a position?
No. Basically, I'm trying to clarify that the funding category 200 does not specifically mean environmental green. When we turn it into downtown, it just says category 200, outreach. What Michelle is suggesting, and I'm not going to say I'm not weighing in on the position, what Michelle is suggesting is that we hold this over, maybe the environmental green, or make a reallocation again and take some money and put it into executive committee, then a committee will formulate a recommendation. If maybe if that's what you're looking for, but it will still, no matter what, ultimately come out of category 200 when the paperwork is submitted.
No, I'm not looking for that. I'm looking to be ethical about this.
We are.
To do our fiduciary duty, which means that we allow the stakeholders to have a voice.
They did.
No.
We already approved this one.
No, you did it under community improvement project. That's the way it was brought before everybody.
Correct.
But it was not.
But it doesn't mean the public was excluded.
No. What I'm saying is, in order to be able to be inclusive, it also must, if you're going to go back to another category, the stakeholder should be able to say something. Because let me for instance, what if some stakeholders think that their project is a lot more important than buying couches for the senior citizens? Okay, and the reason I'm saying this is because we also had a senior citizen ad hoc committee. And that seems to be even more of where this should have gone. Because this is for the senior citizen center, and it should have been done there for them to request. But to start looking to see where we can plug this thing in doesn't seem right. It just does not smell right. It does not look right. Okay, and the whole perception of ethics is not whether we really violate as much as the perception of being ethical.
Yes, thank you, Hugo. Is there any further discussion? So, go ahead, Cynthia.
Yes, in the past, we've had discussion here as a board at this table, and there were things that were needing to be funded, and some of the chairs said, hey, I'll give $500 of my committee money, but did that committee sit and meet, and did they say it would be okay? No, it wasn't. And we did pass that right here in this room in front of the public. So we're doing exactly the same thing right now. We're talking about how we did it the last time. We did that. We talked about how we were going to invite the public. We did that. We didn't do it through the CIP category after all, so this is how they're asking us to do it now. If your question is, shall we go back and have a meeting and do it through environmental green? I just asked Aaron, would he mind coming here and having a meeting that we can go ahead and solve this? And he said that would be fun. Jackie is my other board member. Would Jackie be willing to have a meeting to do this? That would be fun. So if executive board wants to take it on, we could right now amend it and we could take that money out of environmental green, not have a meeting, and we could do it as executive board.
I think the public did get, the public was notified since the first time it was approved. We posted agenda, website, Facebook, physical, so we're not excluding the public. They know. They know. They've been here when we approved it, then they've been here when it was denied, and they're here again, and if they choose not to be here with the full room of it, that's their choice. But these amounts were publicly placed on these agendas, website, Facebook, and early notification system through Empower LA. So we're not in violation of not letting people know. We're not.
Anything further from the board?
The only thing that I would say is, when you're saying that we did this and we did that, my only thing is specifically when did we do it and for what items? Because I myself can't remember raising my hand and say, I'll give you 500 for my committee.
You were not on the board at the time.
Well, what specifically, what was those and how did that get approved?
Jackie, do you recall that we did that at one point? We had an item on the table and we were like, how are we gonna fund this? We don't have enough money. And we all said, and we said, it was an MPG, we said, okay, I think Kathy even said, I'll go ahead and give some of my money, and then Jackie said, I'll give some of mine, and then Michelle said, I'll give some of mine. And we did it right here on this table, and we approved it, and we voted it. It was a motion brought.
Jackie, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. So it was an MPG, and it was for a ranger garden, to give garden, to be able to, it was a ranger garden, and it was
in Rich LA.
Yeah, in Rich LA, and they were asking a certain amount, but we didn't have that much funding in the MPG. So I looked at Aaron, and I said, Aaron, can we get $200? And he's like, yes. So then another committee said, well, let me give 100, and so forth. So all committees, chairs, looked at their people, and we rallied around this MPG, and we supported the gardens that are in these schools right now.
Yes, Aaron, go ahead, sir.
So, all of this is very useful to me, but, so my only thought here, once again, I was just surprised that it had been placed so that the funding would come through the Environmental Green Committee, and that was just a surprise. I'm not objecting to the furniture, but my thought is that since this route was probably decided in the executive committee, my thought is that it should have been done through the executive committee, because the committee could have decided all together as a group, we're going to place this through our committee instead of using the Environmental Green Committee. So I think that would have been more appropriate.
Thank you. It does make much sense. Anything further? Okay. So we're still on item 13. There's been a motion by Cynthia, second by Jackie. We didn't have no public comment. We've had ample board discussion. Anything further? Okay, so this is a funding item of $3,000, so we'll take a tabulation vote.
I would like to do it the way Tom said we could do it. I just feel like it's faster. Yeah. Okay, so everybody in favor, raise your hand, please.
You can do that for the opposite.
Abstentions. And any no's? So we need 9-8-30.
Okay, that motion is approved 9-1-1, which shows 11 board members, 2, 4, 6,
Faster, right?
11.
How was that?
So item 13 is closed. We're now with item 14.
Mr. President, I would like to move out of order. Number 19, we do have softball players here that they've been waiting patiently. I know they have homework in school. I would just ask that the board would hear this in PG.
Thank you, Jackie. Is there a second to move an item out of order? Okay. Kathy. This is a non-funding vote, just by show of hands. We'll move an item out of order. All in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Everybody has a copy of
Those who wish to abstain, raise your hand. Opposed? Yes? What's that? 9. And those opposed? And those abstaining? Okay, that motion is approved. We now move to item number 19 you mentioned. Is that what you called for? 19. Oh, it was 1001. We'll now move to item number 19, which is the approval of an MPG submitted by Woodrow Wilson High School for the amount of $924.88. This is for the Woodrow Wilson softball program.
I added a MPG topic to the back of your agenda.
Do we have a maker of this motion?
I would like to move LA32 NC approve the MPG submitted by Woodrow Wilson High School for the amount of $924.88 for the Wilson softball program.
Is there a second, Cynthia? Thank you. We can now accept public comment. Are you girls here to speak on behalf of the program?
Yes.
Public comment, we'll give you girls 3 minutes. Let me just set my timer up. Are all three of you plan on speaking?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
Collectively, what I could do is give you guys 5 minutes for the group of you, as long as you're all speaking on the same item. Item 19? Okay, let me just go to timer here. I'll give, 3, 6, 9, and I'm trying to be fair with them. So, okay, I'll just put 7 minutes. Feel free to express yourselves. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Aquino and I'm a senior at Wilson High School. This year will be my 4th year as a varsity starter. I'd like to share with you why the funds we requested will benefit our softball program. Every season we seem to fall short on obtaining the items we need for our softball program. These things include balls, buckets, bow nets, hitting tees, etc. Our coaches often purchase these things out of their own pockets and these items aren't cheap. So financial assistance would be extremely beneficial and appreciated. Throughout my time at Wilson, it has been perceived by many of the girls in the softball program that our sport wasn't taken seriously by many people, also by the Wilson administration. Well, it means a lot to us because we put so many hours practicing and conditioning that we try to make it as fun as possible. Softball has been life for me. It has brought so many opportunities, and because of softball, I've been recognized by several colleges wanting me to play for their programs. Softball has opened many doors for me and has enabled me to meet so many great people. Softball has also taught me teamwork, leadership, softball skills, and life skills, and how to balance a busy schedule. This made me shape who I am today. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, my name is Noemi Guzman. I'm a senior at Wilson High School. I would like to tell you why these funds would be so beneficial to our softball program. For the past 2 seasons that I played for Wilson, we always seem to be short on a variety of things. We're always running short on balls, bow nets, hitting tees, buckets, and more. To get the practice we want, we have to have these basic things that give us the skills that we need. I take softball very seriously because I feel as if it helped me develop skills I thought I didn't have. It taught me social skills, leadership, teamwork, and etc. Softball is very important to my team and we love the sport. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Isaac Aquino. I'm a resident of 932 and I am a Wilson alumni. But more importantly, I am a coach of the Wilson High School softball program. I requested a grant from the LA32 Neighborhood Council, and I believe it's on today's agenda. Obviously, we're talking about it. If approved by the board, the grant will be used for necessary items to sustain our softball program. These items include balls, ball buckets, practice nets, weighted practice balls, etc. Over the years, Wilson softball had developed somewhat of a reputation of not having a strong coaching staff, thus not a strong softball program. And this resulted in much of El Sereno's talent going to play elsewhere. However, slowly but surely, we are changing that reputation to one of respect and discipline. I joined the coaching staff at Wilson about 5 years ago with the JV team, and I joined the varsity staff 3 seasons ago. And it wasn't until last year that Wilson finally hired an experienced softball coach that has many years of experience coaching upper level travel ball and high school ball under his belt. And because of this, slowly more of El Sereno's softball talent is staying here at home, as opposed to going to Lincoln, Bravo, or Alhambra high schools. We are starting to build and develop the Wilson softball program into a program to be reckoned with. And with the support of the players and their families, the Wilson administration, and our community, we expect to reach and surpass our goal of being one of the top programs in our league and our division. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Anything further? Thank you, thank you. Now we have board members' discussion for this item. The MPG is attached to your agenda. Any discussion from the board?
I just want to join the board. I know that the Stallions came in, and I was looking at previous that you, the board has always helped out the football team, the Stallions, and so when I saw this, I thought it was a great opportunity to be able to reach out to other schools and help other programs here in our area.
Thank you, Jackie. Any further discussion? Oh, Michelle, to my right. Go ahead.
This is why I like being on this board. This is why it's worth it. The money is staying here in 90032. You know, I prefer these MPGs to stay here, not in another city or another community or a big project somewhere else. I would be, you know, it is really going to these girls that live here, and that makes me so proud and happy to know that it is going to be used very well for you guys. And I know that it's an MPG, so the only thing we always ask is that you brand your items. We have stickers that you can brand all the bats, maybe make a patch for the jerseys or whatever it is that you use. But I know that's usually what city clerk is going to ask me when I submit it. Of course, if this gets approved, they're going to ask, make sure they brand everything that is going to be on that list.
Thank you. Anything to my left? Cynthia?
Yes, I do want to say that I'm also a Wilson alumni, and I have worked very closely with Isaac Aquino, and I do know that Isaac does take his coaching very seriously, and I see that there's passion, and I see that there's respect, and I see that these young ladies are on their way to colleges, and go out there and represent us, okay? Thank you so much for coming in and giving us your time.
Do we have any further discussion?
Yeah, I could brag a little. I graduated in 1970, so Pala Dios.
Thank you, Hugo. Anything further from the board? Okay, this is a funding item. I just want to ask the MPG application that was submitted with the treasurer, is there everything everything's completed? So
I have, everything's complete, signatures are there.
Okay.
Boxes are checked off, and we do have not only the application completed, but the letterhead from the principal where he's describing the purpose of this MPG. We have everything here.
Thank you, thank you. Anything final from the board? Anything that? Yes, Kathy, go ahead.
If item 15 does get approved, they can come back and help us with our community cleanup. That would be great.
That's already happened.
Oh, September 15, right? 16. We'll appreciate it.
Thanks for the input. Thank you, Kathy. Anything further from the board? Okay, this is a funding item for the Neighborhood Purposes Grant issued to Woodrow Wilson High School. Their federal ID number is on here, and it is indicated that the primary contact is Isaac Aquino, Woodrow Wilson High School softball, and this is for a public school. So this is a funding item. We'll take the tabulation here with our recording secretary again.
Any abstentions from the board? Any noes? One abstention? Any noes? No? 10-0-1.
Woodrow Wilson, congratulations, you guys, or girls as well. The vote is 10-0-1. So you'll be funded. The dollar amount is $924.88. So we'll be making those payments arrangements through Michelle.
Yes, I'll be sending it tomorrow to the city clerk.
Thank you, ladies, and hope you guys have a successful season.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, real quick, the check will go to Wilson High School, so make sure you follow up with the school principal once he gets that check to work it out with you.
Yeah, I have
Okay.
discussed it with them. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Have a great night.
That closes item number 19. It was moved out of order by request and a board vote. So now we go back to agenda item number 14 is where we originally were at prior to moving. Item 14.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, can we move item 16 out of order? They have been sitting here patiently. They've been to our last 3 meetings. And there are a few questions that I think they need answered. So that would be item 16, please move out of order. Do I get a second?
Yes, second by Aaron. I have it on over here. Move to item 16. Aaron. Okay, we'll take a hand vote for this. All in favor of moving to item 16 at this time, raise your hand. 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 10. 10-0-1. That item will be heard at this time. We're now hearing item 16 on today's agenda. Is there a board member who wishes to move this item forward?
I'd like to move item 16, discussion and possible action to participate in the LA32 9th Annual Health Fair with a resource booth to provide community information and LA32 promotional merchandise. That the council facilitate the opening of El Sereno Senior Center on October 14, 2017, and allow the LA Derby Dolls to host their fair there, as they are no longer able to hold the event in their own venue. Funds not to exceed $200, and that the LA32 provide funding not to exceed $400 for flyers. One moment, please. Printed promotional materials to get the word out to community and increase attendance. Past vendors have provided a quote for LA Derby Dolls requested materials that would come out roughly $400, but they are open to suggestions if there is another vendor that is connected to the council that may be able to provide a better rate. That LA32 supply water and snacks, refreshments for the services providers who will staff the fair not to exceed $500, totaling $1,100.
Second.
Thank you, Jackie. We'll now take public comment for this item. Do we have any stakeholders who wish to speak on this item? Yes, feel free to come speak to us. Good evening.
Hello. Hello. All right. Hi, I'm Laura Turgis. Some of you know me from the past meetings. First of all, I'd like to thank you for considering the proposal, and I hope that you'll vote for it. Secondly, I did want to provide some follow-up information after speaking with Mr. Guzman about the recreational center, and provide a suggestion if a board member wishes to make an amendment to the funding structure as it's laid out here. Given the numbers we've gotten from Mr. Guzman, it looks like we would need a minimum of $429 rather than $200 for the rental of the space. So I would propose, if someone could suggest an amendment to reduce the amount allotted for water and snacks by $230 to now equal $270, which I think will be more than enough considering the number of providers that we're looking to refresh, and increasing the funding allocated for the space rental by the same amount to $430.
We still have a minute and 30 seconds left, so before we interact, we just want to give you your full amount of time.
Sure. That's all I have to say.
I just wanted, on behalf of the Dirty Dolls, I really appreciate your support and for giving us the time here to express ourselves, and also thank you for your partnership and interacting with the community, because we really enjoy your time here in El Sereno. Thank you very much.
Sorry, one more thing to mention. When I gave that number of $429, $100 of that would be a refundable security deposit. So presumably the total cost would only be $330, but we would need to provide for $430 in order to include the deposit. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. Do we have any other stakeholders wishing to speak for this item? Board members, do we have any discussion for this item, which is item 16?
Well, I just kind of overheard Michelle talk about refundable deposits or something. And I'm wondering, how does that work? And
we don't.
I know that we don't get refundable
Those
deposits.
$100 would go back to the downtown. So we would initially pay the $100 deposit, and instead of refunding it back to us, it goes to them. That's what happened before. Well, not to you guys, but it doesn't come back to.
No,
They don't refund us.
No, the city clerk won't allow a process like that. They've never allowed a process where there's a security deposit to hold a rental or something. And they've told us in the training, maybe another way, maybe Derby Dolls can do the security deposit and we'll cover the rest.
That's a suggestion. I don't decide these things, yeah. I don't decide these things. I'm just here to run the meeting. So that's a good point though. But my understanding is we've done it in the past. We've put a deposit at a park, which this would be a park, and the department or the city did not give us our refund back. So I'm just thinking it would apply again. But the treasurer does have a good point. Possibly maybe the Derby Dolls, knowing that it is refundable, they'll deposit the $100 themselves, and it would just save us the $100 on our cost, and then they would get their return.
Yeah, okay, it's coming from our committee, so, what do you think about that? Okay, you think you could put up the $100 instead of us putting up the $100 and not getting anything for it?
Yes, I think we could arrange for that, and I think that makes sense as a responsible thing for us to do.
So the amended part that you want on the, rather than $200, you want how much then?
330.
330, that's gonna be the amendment.
So 330.
Can I second that, or do I have to read all that again?
Who's making the amendment?
I can make the amendment.
And I'll second it.
Okay. I'm writing it down, Jackie. I'm writing it down, Jackie.
So it would be 1,000 instead of 1,100.
Correct. $1,000 even, and then on my notes, it indicates that
No.
services provided will stop the credit.
It's increasing, it's
It would
increasing.
be 1,100 plus 330.
No.
Okay.
She's saying just to read out.
I know what happened, it's because the way the motion is worded, it's a story, so there's sections, and I'm looking at just the total on the funding form, is what I'm doing, because that's too much to write on that little space.
Yeah.
So I just said co-sponsor and fund up to 1,100. But my request here to the city clerk will read 1,100 plus the 330, but I know.
No, it's included already.
Right. Can I, Jackie, did you want to help explain this?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll help explain just so the board member know. It's one motion and the stakeholder approach, and they're asking to, the way it's broken down, on the front page 4, it says funds not to exceed 200. They're realizing that they need 429 for the rental fee, so that 200 does not cover it. On the back page though, it indicates $400 roughly for requested materials that would come out of roughly 400, and then the very last line, it says supply, water, snacks, refreshments, and services provided for staff at the fair not to exceed 500. What the stakeholders are requesting is from those $500 that are already included in the total dollar amount to release 130 from there, from the 500, and place them on the front page, which is 200. What that'll do is move them up to 330. They'll come up with a $100 deposit, which is 430, which covers the 429. So we're not increasing the total dollar amount, we're just reducing it by 100 because the Derby Dolls are willing to absorb the deposit. So out of the 1,100, you take away $100. Okay, which is the deposit.
Let's start it.
How do they get to this 420 in the front, 429? It comes from the 500 that's here, so they will take less in water, snacks, and refreshments.
Okay, no, let's just put the figures. Let's just put the figures and make it a lot easier.
Okay.
Instead of 200, what's that number?
It's gonna be,
429.
no,
330.
330.
330, right?
Yes.
Okay. Then the 400 flyers stay.
400 stays, correct?
Right? Which is again,
correct.
The same 400, right?
Roughly stays,
Then the
correct.
500 changes to what?
Minus 130. No, 370.
Okay, mathematics.
You just take away.
I graduated 1970. I
Minus
forgot my math.
130. Minus 130. The 130 that's going to the front side.
Yeah, how much was that?
370.
370?
Yes.
Okay, so now we're
And that will equal 1,000. Even. 370, 400, and 130.
If I may suggest to the chairs, when we are voting on this, to have the event form here today and the itemized list which would help with the paragraph of item number 16, because all this could be on the itemized list, and we could refer to the event form and the itemized list versus it being on all of this on there. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you understand.
He's helping me out right now.
You have the event form there?
She's doing it right now. Jackie's over
I'll figure that out.
Huh?
You should be doing this so that we know how it works.
Well, she's teaching me because.
While you're figuring that out, do we have any other board members discussion?
This lady's a great vice president. I mean,
Yeah, so this is the
she always helps me out. I can't get any other kind of.
Anything further from the board? No further discussion?
Let me see.
Ready for the event.
Right, so it is from Cynthia and from Jackie. Jackie Hugo.
Yes, sir.
No, Jackie Hugo, it's the amendment. So everyone understand the amendments?
Yeah, the amendment with Jackie and you.
Okay, so we're gonna be voting only on the amendment, which will be to reduce $100 because they will absorb the deposit and get that refunded to them. And then the front side where it says the host affair there, which will be at the senior center, not to exceed, and that's gonna be $330. And they will provide the 100, so that's $430 for them. The flyers is $400, and the 500 gets reduced to $370. Those are the amendments. All in favor of the amendments, raise your hand. Oh,
Any extensions?
oh, do you want to do it that way?
Is there any extensions?
Me, yes. Okay, so let me write on my
Any no's?
Still the same. Any opposed?
We understand that the members are the same, but she's doing a different process.
It's still the same. If you count on our hands, it's the same thing. Okay, so the amendment will be included into the main motion. It is a little lengthy, but I have to read the main motion. It says discussion and possible action to participate in the Derby Dolls 9th Annual Health Fair with a resource booth to provide community information and LA32 promotional merchandise. That the council facilitate the opening of the El Sueño Senior Citizen Center on October the 14th, 2017, and allow the LA Derby Dolls to hold their fair here, or there, which is here, as they are no longer able to hold the event in their own venue. The funds will not to exceed $330, and that LA32 funding not to exceed $400 for flyers and printed promotional materials to get the word out to the community and increase attendance. Past vendors have provided a quote for the LA Derby Dolls requested material that would come out to roughly $400, but they are open to suggestions if there is any other vendor that is connected to the council that may be able to provide a better rate. And that LA32 supply water, snacks, and refreshments for the services providers who will staff the fair not to exceed $370 for a total of $1,000. This is a funding item, so I will have the recording secretary call the roll.
Any extensions? Any no's? 10-0-1, motion passes.
That is approved, 10-0-1. That motion is approved. Congratulations to Laura and the Derby Dolls. Your event will be held here October the 14th, looks like. Thank you. Item 16 is closed. We'll now move back to item 14.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. I know we're moving all over stuff, and I'm sure we're probably going through with the agenda tonight, but I'm asking that we move another item.
Okay.
Number 17.
17. Okay, Jackie, is there a second for that? Is there a second for moving? Okay, Stephanie. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We need one more we need one more board member seated before we can move this item. Yeah.
And Cynthia's on her way.
Yeah, we'll wait. We just have to have 8 of us here before we take action. Some people just want to scoot along. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, we have a request to move item 17 out of order. The motion is made by Jackie, second by Stephanie. We need 8 members seated. Cynthia, can you come over just a moment? We need 8 of us to take a position. Those in favor of moving item 17 out of order, please raise your hand at this time. 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. Those opposed, raise your hand. And those abstaining, raise your hand. 0, 2. 602, 6 is the majority, so we now move to item 17, which will be heard. Is there a maker of the motion? Item 17.
Discussion and possible action that by LA32 NC to purchase workout equipment not to exceed $1,000 and allow equipment to be used by El Sereno Insider Free Fitness Boot Camp in basic self-defense class.
Thank you. Is there a second? Kathy Leal. So we now hear item number 17, which is a discussion and possible action to fund up to $1,000 for the El Sereno Insider Fitness Boot Camp. Do we have public comment for this item? Victor, I have your public comment card. Do you wish to speak on this item? Yeah, I have your card here.
What?
Yep. We will give you 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Victor Payadas, longtime resident, El Sereno. I host a free fitness boot camp and basic self-defense class at Ascot Hills. We hosted a couple at El Sereno Park. It's free of charge for the entire community, all ages, as long as the kids don't disrupt the class or the course. Everybody's allowed. We average about 30 people per class. We've had about 37 as the max. People are requesting additional days. I host it once a week on Wednesdays. People are very interested. They're enjoying the workouts. They're enjoying the benefits of safety. We discuss safety issues along with the basic self-defense. We've had a guest instructor, who's a professional boxer, born and raised out of El Sereno here, who also comes out and does as a guest instructor. I was approached by, approached by some of the members of the 32 Council, discussing a possible co-sponsorship with the El Sereno Insider Boot Camp and basic self-defense. It would be great to have some equipment, punching pads, tug ropes, jump ropes, punching pads. There's medicine balls to add to our class. And again, we're trying to add probably another day or 2. So if we have money, if there's money to provide some of this equipment for the community, again, to be used by the community, I'd love to use some of that equipment. That's about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor. Is there any board members' discussion?
Just the only thing, if we do approve, city clerk makes the final decision. So whatever once they look at this motion and the invoice, because you'll have to provide invoice of what we're going to be buying, which is like the heavy jump rope or the hula hoops, or I don't know what it is that you have in mind, or a sandbox, kickbox. They might ask for liability, so just be ready for that. But we will submit, obviously the board approves, we'll submit with the invoices, because they need to see a breakdown of what we are going to purchase, what LA32 needs to purchase. Either they will purchase it, or I, as the treasurer, will be authorized to purchase it. But we do need like an invoice or a bid of where these items would store, Big Five or wherever it may be. And I don't know if you have those ready today.
I don't have them ready. There's a boxing place here on Valley, just by the freeway. I don't know the name. I have a business card.
Even if they don't give you a bid, maybe you can just type the description and what it costs up to the amount that you're requesting. So when, so the board approves now, I can send that to them first thing tomorrow.
Okay.
And they can give me a response immediately and say it's a go. And then you and I can walk into that store and purchase away and then store it either here or at our public storage, and whenever we use it, one of us would have to go out there and now work out and go open it and take it out and check it out and be there with you, you know.
That's great.
So yeah, if you could do that invoice or the list, that'd be great.
Definitely. And then they also said that they would give a group rate or a bulk rate, a deal. So, you know, if we purchase enough equipment, they'll give us a break, so.
Jackie?
So Sports and Rec heard this at our committee, and we discussed it. We weren't sure how to go about it, either as an MPG or as coming through us and us purchasing the items, which it is for the stakeholders, it is for our area, and it's for healthy fitness and so forth. So I understand, you know, Victor uses his own things for this, and he's doing it for free. So that's why we brought it here, and we weren't exactly sure how we should go about this. So that's why it's on the agenda right now.
Thank you, Jackie. I do have two questions, one for the stakeholder and one for our treasurer. The question is for Victor, the stakeholder, is how often or how long have you been doing this so far?
This has been going on since May 17th, as a matter of fact.
Okay, thank you. And then my question for the treasurer would be, much like the Wilson funding that we just did, will these items also be branded or they belong to us?
They belong to us.
But so they also get a sticker or no sticker?
Oh yeah, stickers on them.
Okay, just for branding items, I'm thinking, right, Dave?
Inventory,
Inventory? No problem. Anything further from the board? Any other discussion or debate for this
We
item?
need to get out there and work out, is what I'm saying.
Okay, we're currently on item number 17, discussion and possible action that LA32 Neighborhood Council purchases workout equipment not to exceed $1,000 and allow the equipment to be used by the El Sereno Insider Free Fitness Boot Camp and basic self-defense classes. Okay, so this is a funding item. I'll now have the recording secretary take the tabulation.
Any abstentions?
Yes, ma'am.
Any noes? So that's 801.
Oh, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Oh, 7.
Which one do you like?
Okay, Victor, looks like we approved you 701, 7 the majority of the 8 of us sitting up here. So we'll work with our treasurer to fund these items for you as soon as possible. And the next training starts Wednesday, right?
Wednesday. We'll be back Wednesday. So join us. Yes.
You want Tom to do it for you? Do it your phone.
What was about to die?
He wants a picture.
Yeah, we
Stand over here behind the part of it.
Yeah, we can take a picture. Over here real quick.
No, behind me. You can stand behind me.
I heard.
Looks like they're looking at it. Stand up. Sitting down. Right here. Someone sit down. Someone stand up.
Oh, are we like awkward?
We're fine here.
We're jealous.
You go sit up, you guys are come down.
You go.
Are we?
Like all the way to the back.
How can you just stay here?
Like all your pictures on Facebook are really good.
Oh, yeah. Here, do one more so I can put it on our Facebook.
Thank you.
We should bring our new friend over there.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good job, guys. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. You guys come up and work out. It's free.
So that closes item 17, which is the assistance of the El Sereno Insider Free Fitness Boot Camp. We now move back to item 14, which is on our agenda. Item 14 is discussion and possible action that LA32 NC schedule a board dynamics workshop with Gary De La Rosa from Empower LA Wednesday, October the 4th at 6 p.m. at the general board meeting, which will be here. Funding not to exceed $400 for dinner to the stakeholders and the community who attend. Funds will be taken from operational category under miscellaneous funds. Is there a board member who wishes to move this item? Cynthia, thank you so much. Kathy, as well. Do we have public comment for item 14? Yes, go ahead, Tom. Item 14.
Yeah, I'll be really quick. Gary De La Rosa he's not with a department, he works with a department. He's a former human relations City Council Human Relations. He's done a lot of retreats and trainings with our neighborhood councils. At the last board meeting, I got some feedback from some board members. They would like to have some type of a board dynamics training for the board. So we thought that, then, he was going to come today, but unfortunately, at the family event, I was going to introduce you to him today. But he said he's free on October the 4th to come to do a board dynamics training. So we're going to put you on a ladder, then we're going to fall and try to catch each other, do some trust exercises. No, I'm going to do that.
Do you know what time? Is it a good time for us?
Well, he said 6 o'clock, right? So we'll try to, if you can, maybe keep that as a lighter agenda. It shouldn't be too long. Let me try to get from him the time frame. If your board approves it, then I'll let him know to go, and then if that could be the first thing on the agenda, after your comments and everything, then okay. And I could do a little short, quick, agenda training via email, and also with a reiteration of that at the meeting as well. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Tom. Is there any further board members' discussion or debate for this item? Hearing nothing from
Can
the
I say
board?
something real quick?
Oh,
I'm
yes,
sorry.
go ahead, Jackie.
I just want to say that I think this is great bonding time for us because sometimes we only see each other once time here at the meeting, and I think that the more we get to know each other, the more we get to love each other.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Is there anything further from the board? Yes. This is a funding item. We'll now have our recording secretary take the tabulation.
Any abstention?
1, 2.
Any no? Any? So 602.
Okay. 602, 6 in favor, no opposition, and 2 abstaining. So we will be having a really nice meal, looks like, next month, October 4th, 6 p.m. here. I'm gonna eat too.
We're all gonna eat.
Item 14 is closed. We now move to item number 15. Discussion possible action to co-sponsor with CD 14 Jose Huizar for the El Sueño Community Cleanup, Saturday, September 16th, from 9:30 to 11:30. To meet in front of the Food for Less. Funds were not to exceed $200 for water bottles, snacks, and lunches for the volunteers in attendance. Who wants to?
I would like to move this forward. I know Sonny had left, but I actually participated at his beautification meeting.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, you can start speaking now if we get a second. Go ahead, Jackie.
Okay, so that, thank you for seconding that. I was at his beautification meeting because it was right after mine, and they were really excited. I was excited seeing them excited, so I think this is a great event that we should all participate in.
Yes, and we're the ones who actually reached out to Councilman and offered that we can co-sponsor because our committee really hasn't done anything. So I think this would be a great start.
Thank you. Looking forward to the collaboration. Do we have any public comment? Anything from the stakeholders for item number 15? Anything further from the board? Okay, this is another funding item to vote to clean up with co-sponsoring with Council District 14 Jose Huizar's office on Saturday, September 16th from 9:30 to 11:30. Funds were not to exceed $200 for water, refreshments, and lunch for the volunteers. And I'll have the recording secretary again take the tabulation.
Any abstentions?
Me?
Any no's?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 0. There's 9 of us here. Okay, so it looks like the collaboration will be approved. It is approved actually. CD 14 Jose Huizar and LA32 Saturday, September 16th. The cleanup. Hopefully, we will be inviting the Wilson softball team to come join us. Actually, yes. So now we've heard item 16. Item is closed. Item 17 is closed. Item 18 we have not heard yet, which is the last item on our agenda this evening. Yeah. Is there a maker of the motion to remove item 18?
I'll move item 18.
Okay, Cynthia. And Hugo or Jose? Okay, Hugo. Do we have public comment? Is there any public comment for item 18? Item 18 is discussion and possible action that LA32 Neighborhood Council support a resolution letter for the use of the El Sereno Constituent Center second floor gym for the stakeholders and especially those in the public park leagues. The motion has been moved by Cynthia and seconded by Hugo. And we have any stakeholders to give comment on this? Public comment? Anything from the board?
Yes, so Sports and Recreation had met and we put this on our agenda because we had a stakeholder requesting for use of the gym. He is a coach and their players had to play out hot in the hot sun and the gym was not being used at that time. So he's just asking that we help support the leagues to be able to use the facility when it's really hot outside because it's air conditioning.
Thank you very much. Is there anything further from the director? No further board discussion? This is a non-funding item, so it's just requesting a resolution or a letter of support. And this will be given to the coaches who are using public park leagues and to actually utilize the Body Action Second Floor Gymnasium, which is an indoor facility that we have here in the community. Since this is a non-funding item, we'll just take a show of hands. Item 18, discussion and possible action that LA32 Neighborhood Council support a resolution letter for the use of the El Sereno Constituent Center second floor gym for stakeholders and especially those in public park leagues. Those in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You two? 7. That's 7 in favor. Those opposed, raise your hand. Those abstaining, raise your hand. That tabulation comes out to 701. The resolution will be prepared and provided to the public park leagues. Item 19 has been heard already, and that one's closed. And before we close and make a motion to adjourn, is there any final announcements or any public comment? We want to give an opportunity for the stakeholders to address us. Anything in closing? We look forward to the candidate forum coming up on September the 14th, which is in a couple weeks. It'll be across the street at the Korean Church, the Presbyterian Church on Eastern. Come out and meet your candidates. Do we have anything further from the board?
Just when you have these events, the back of that event form says 30 days. We haven't even submitted that event for the ad hoc committee.
Okay.
I'm just really getting it together because I wasn't here at the August 8 meeting, just so you know, but I finally got it from the recording secretary and from the vice president, so it's really going to be sent tomorrow. So I can't do any magic with city clerk, but I'll send it to them. But this is important that once it's approved right now today, you guys give me those event forms and itemize this so I can send it first thing tomorrow. So.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
Can I just respond to that? So I've been working diligently. I know Marcia has been behind the scenes, even though that she resigned, helping me get all the candidates together, getting the location, the place. So I did reach out to Empower LA because I had concerns myself because I know to get that form in ahead of time, and it should have been ahead of time, but just trying to get everything together. So I did reach out to them, and they were on board to help us out. So thank you, Michelle, for patiently waiting for all those tallies and everything that we needed to get in, and I think we'll be good to go.
Thank you. We still have 8 members here for a quorum, and is there anybody who wishes to move item 20? Adjourn.
Item 20.
Do you still want to mention something? I don't know. I just want to hear. I'm just following the agenda. Yes, I'm just following the agenda.
I motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Cynthia, very much, and Stephanie. That's what I was looking for. And the closing time is 9:19. All in favor of adjourning our meeting at 9:19, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's enough. 701. Our meeting is adjourned.
She wants my poderosa.